Hello and welcome to the Nash Tackle Off the Hook podcast. Welcome once again to our makeshift COVID secure as we can make it studio. Today's guest, Nash, or should that be Nash, his very own media manager, media coordinator,
marketing
coordinator, general all-round legend. Yep. Henry Lennon. Welcome, Henry. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm living the dream, mate. I just caught an Office Lake.
Did Office Lake record for the year? Yeah, you're smashing it.
What a lunch hour. How about you, mate? Fishing recently or not?
Done very little. I've been getting things prepared for spring though. I feel like I'm building things up, and very soon things are about to get very quick on the fishing front. But yeah, things have been a bit slow over the winter. I've done a little bit, but not really much. I think I've caught like two carp this year, not even proper ones, but not from the Office Lake. So yeah, fishing's been a bit slow. Work's been very busy. That's kind of one of the reasons why. No nights. Like winter, I like to night fish quite a bit just because, yeah, I just feel like you're maximising your time a lot more. And with Nat being banned, yeah, it's just not been going much on. So not much recent to report. I'm hoping, if you ask me that question in 3 months' time, it's going to be a completely different story. And
I'm sure it will, mate.
Loads of tales of big carp, but until then, not a lot to report for recently.
Can only get better, mate. Nights are around. Hopefully this situation's over and the Lennon will be on fire.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
So in essence today, we're going to talk a little bit about your story, what you've done, joining Nash, your fishing, etc. So I think the place that I want to start, because I don't actually know this, because I know at the moment you're Leicester based, which is my hometown.
Yep.
We Leicester boys.
Yeah.
I want to know where it started, mate, because I know there's a bit of a European segue.
Yeah. So when I was about 10 or 11, I moved over to Switzerland for my dad's job. Hadn't fished at all prior to that. And it wasn't until I think my granddad fished a little bit. I think I'd gone down with him, but nothing really, no interest for fishing. But in Switzerland, the way the country's laid out is you've got different cantons, which are like counties, and each canton's sort of in its own valley. So, but around you, in each canton, you've got like a wall of mountains, and then in the middle, a massive, massive lake. We had a few family friends come over and visit us the first summer we were there, and they wanted to go fishing. And you've got the lake. I mean, it was like 200 meters from us. Went down there, started float fishing in the edge for whatever we could catch, little roach, little perch, and generally, as cliche it is, I was hooked from that moment. From that moment, I absolutely loved it. They left me a little, like 2 meter whip, and I would just, whenever I could, in the summer, it was only in the summer at that point, I would get down on my bike, the little 200, 300 meter ride down to the lake with my tackle box and everything, and just fish in the edge. The reason it was only in the summer is because, like I said, these lakes are huge. I mean, mine was 50 kilometers perimeter, something like that. And this is a small one. Switzerland, it goes like 200, 300 meters in places. And in the colder months, all the fish just go into the middle and you've got no chance of catching them on a 2 meter whip. So yeah, that's where it all started for me.
Did anyone in your family do any sort of fishing beforehand?
Yeah, like I said, my granddad did. And after I took to it a lot more, when I would go back to England to visit family and stuff, I'd go with my granddad. My dad had done it a little bit in the past, but nothing too much. So there was no real real anglers, I'd say, in my immediate family anyway. So no, it was all from that session. Like I said, if those family friends hadn't come over and we'd gone down to the lake, I don't think I'd ever have. I wouldn't be sat here now. Basically, it was just one of those incidents, and just watching that float go under, and that was it. That was just the excitement of that. Completely got me. What is it about fishing, do you think?
That's the hardest question to answer.
It is the hardest question ever. It is such a difficult question. And when my mates who don't fish, they ask me that question, it's like, I can't even explain to you what it is that I love about it. There is just something, it's a mixture of like the unknown and trying to figure out all the variables and not knowing, but also kind of knowing, like knowing what you need to do, but not knowing what the outcome's going to be. And I do I don't know if anyone's seen it, the Angling is a Peculiar Sport, that video we've done. I did the voiceover for that. And I remember when I read it through, I was like, that really does sum it up. It's a peculiar sport. It's a really weird sport. If you can even call it a sport, some people would argue you can't. like to people out on the outside, it's just some bloke sat on a seat box waiting for a bite. But there's just so many variables like you need to consider, so much going on, so much. Yeah. So it's just an adventure, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah.
Too right. How, from that early beginning and your 2 meter whip and you're in Switzerland, how did that then progress in terms of your angling?
So I guess it just went to, obviously with case with everyone, you just want to then start catching more, and then you want to start catching bigger, and then you want to catch more bigger. So it was, so it went from that 2 meter whip, again, like I said, only in the summer. So the first couple of years, I only began to fish in the summer, then realizing like, spring, autumn, winter, you still want to be catching. So now I started to fish a few rivers nearby for sort of like the trout that were in there. Few big chub. There's a lot of big chub in Switzerland. I'd have a go for them. I always remember being underneath this. Switzerland's quite funny with fishing, and a lot of it's banned everywhere. So it's always a lot of poaching going on. But it wasn't really poaching. It was just like, not like poaching in the sense it is now. It was just trying to not get caught wherever you were going, because there was nowhere really you could go. So it was just sort of just fishing anywhere and just like hiding away and stuff. I always remember being in the middle of winter in Switzerland. This river I found hand frozen underneath this tiny bridge, probably with yellow thunder, my little 6 foot rod. Every trot through on this river, the ice would freeze on my rings. That's before I knew what's it?
Glycerine.
Glycerine. That's it. Yeah, before I knew about putting that in there. So it would freeze through, and I just smashed the ice with the rod tip every time through, like 3-4 foot of snow all around you, and that I really remember that really clearly, and just catching like I was probably there for like 3 hours and caught like 3 or 4 roach, but just remember being like, this is still amazing. Like I absolutely love this. So yeah, so then that was probably the next progress. Quite a bit of river fishing, then a bit of fly fishing. We went to California for a family holiday once, and we did fly fishing lessons. I started to get into that, just tie my own flies and stuff. I was really enjoying that. Then pike fishing. Started pike fishing a little bit. There was good pike fishing in Switzerland from quite a few lakes, and then it just progressed into carp fishing. And
you mentioned there, mate, the yellow thunder.
Yeah.
Now, this might be a sore subject because it recently had a bit of damage, didn't it?
It did.
But
it's been repaired.
How long ago did you get that rod?
I think it's something like, it's at least 10 years. I think it may be 11, 12, something like that. So probably like 13.
And you picked it up in Switzerland?
No, California. I got it in California and then brought it back with me. So when it broke, sorry talking about yellow thunder. Ollie always says to me, "Stop trying to make that cool. It's not cool." And I do get it. It's just me running around with this 6 foot yellow spinning rod. And when it broke, actually, I had someone message me who lives in America, going, "I'll try and find you another one to replace it." He went down. Thank you so much, this guy Derek, I think his name was. Thank you so much, Derek, for this. I really appreciate it. And he went to his local tackle shop, spoke to the Eagle Claw rep. He was like, I'll do my best to try and find one for you. He got back to him and basically said that rod was part of a rod and reel combo set that was like $10. It was discontinued about 8 years ago, so there's no more. He sorted all these other ones, and it's like, if he wants these, I can get these for him. And this Derek guy was going to pay for him, send it over. I was going to transfer him the money and everything, but thankfully Curly fixed it, so I didn't need one in the end. But I think he actually bought one himself, like a similar yellow Eagle Claw rod, and he's like, I'm going to keep it for the creek fishing over in the States and stuff. So
I just love the way that you're at Nash with loads of scopes and 6 foot rods, and you had the yellow thunder out every time you could, mate.
Yeah, it's almost it's gotten to a point now where I do it on purpose a little bit. But for me as well, it's I remember when I was younger, well, to be honest, even till I started at Nash, and like being a teenager and not having loads of money, and you get looked down on a lot by other anglers in the UK. I think if you don't have like all the matching rods and everything, you look like there's a bit of snobbery about tackle. And I remember as a kid always feeling like a bit embarrassed about it and thinking I can't fish these waters, I can't catch these fish because of my tackle. So I almost feel like if you see someone who's in a position to get whatever tackle they want, whatever premium tackle they want, and they're still using the cheap gear and they're still enjoying it and catching fun, then like if I saw someone like that when I was really, really young, then I'd think that, yeah, okay, I don't have to feel as embarrassed about my gear now because it's just about catching the fish. That's all that matters. I always say that the most important thing, obviously, everyone says it is the last 4 or 5 foot. That's the thing that matters. So I'm always doing it for a little bit out of just to annoy the boys in the office, and a little bit also to think that if some kid's watching and he's feeling a bit shit that he's not got great gear, then he doesn't need to, because it's not about having all the perfect rods and the perfect gear. It's about enjoying your fishing. So that's also kind of why I keep using it. But I caught a lot of fish on it, really enjoy it, and thank you, Curly, for fixing it for me the other day.
Back,
and it's back. Yeah, it is back.
Good stuff. You said there about your sort of progression through whip fishing, chub fishing, pike fishing. How much success did you have over that time? Would you already consider yourself quite a natural angler?
No, I just loved it. I just loved it. I remember there was a lake in Switzerland that featured on Eurobank 6. Really, really special lake. Still to this day, the best lake I've ever fished, ever.
In your life?
In my life. And I almost don't want to fish one better than that. Like, I just love that it's got that. I just have these memories of it as how it was. And me and one of my mates, we found it. I remember the day we found it, there was loads of snow, it was the middle of winter, and we tied a load of sledges to the back of his bike, and we're just razzing around on bikes, like trying to drift this sled everywhere. And he said, it was near his house, he said, there's a lake about 20-minute bike ride away, let's go down, have a look at it, see if we can go over on the ice and do the same thing on the ice with these sledges. So we got down there, went across, and I was really getting to my fishing at this point. Got on the ice, got told off by the park ranger for being on the ice. Obviously, as you do, it's very unsafe being on ice. I mean, it was proper thick at that time. It's the middle of winter in Switzerland, so it's not like you've got a little bit like that. You've got a good couple of foot. But we I remember as we were leaving, and as we walked across the whole thing and looking down, and because it was crystal clean scene, it was quite deep. I remember thinking, there's a good chance there's some fish in here. And a lot of my fishing, because there was no one in my family to learn from, so much of my fishing came from this John Bailey, like encyclopaedia of fishing that my granddad gave me, and I just spent ages reading it. Like, read the whole thing. Yeah. And I remember it would describe like the habitats that fish would live in, and the way it described a pike habitat, this lake sounded like John Bailey textbook pike fishing venue. So I thought, right, when the snow melts, I'll go down, I'll read this book, figure out how you catch pike, order some spinners. We went down and had a go, and I still remember one of my first casts down there. It's this bay where it's really weedy there, but the weed does die down a lot, obviously, when the ice is there, and so you get like a month after the ice is thawed where it's completely clear. I'm chucking the spinner out, bringing it through, and it's crystal clear, like I said, you could see it. And like wolves from just out of nowhere, like 4 or 5 jack pike just come up and just start striking at it. And this is the point where the biggest fish I've caught is probably, I think I had caught a couple of carp when I'd gone back to Switzerland, when I got back to England to visit family and gone with my granddad.
Okay.
But like by myself, probably like a couple of pound, 3-pound chub was probably the biggest thing I'd caught. And just seeing like these 4 or 5 pound jack pike just absolutely hammering this lure. It was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This lake that we found. We probably had like 5 or 6 pike that day between me and my mate. And for the next 2 years, whenever we could, we'd go down there and pike fish it, because that was, like I said, it was out of the way, so you wouldn't get caught, because you weren't supposed to fish there, but you wouldn't get caught there. And when the other option is sort of catching like 6-7 ounce roach, a 4 or 5 pound pike is the much better option. So we went down there, spent a lot of money on spinners and lures that are stuck at the bottom on snags down there.
You've left your own bit of history.
Yeah, definitely. And then probably after 2 years of fishing there for the pike, then I remember one time being down there and seeing these massive shapes just moving around in the middle of the lake. And me and my mate were thinking they're just big pike, casting our spinners towards and trying to get them to take them, trying to foul hook them as well, which is probably, again, really bad angling. Like, this is just the naivety of being a kid. You don't really know what's right and wrong. And so it is wrong. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah. After a while thinking, you know what, these could be carp. These could be carp. Like I said, I've caught a few in England at sort of like 10, 11 pounds to my granddad. But I think that these are carp. These could be really good carp. So I remember sort of reading up, thinking over a winter, I was probably like 13, 14 at this time, over that winter thinking, right, when that ice thaws, we'll go down. As soon as it thaws, me and my mate would normally go down and pike fish it, and thinking, right, when we get down next time, I'll bring some sweet corn, just throw it on the edge and see if these carp come in and feed. So got down there, chucked it in this around some lily pads because John Bailey had told me.
Yeah, classic.
Carp like lily pads. Sweet corn's a good bait for carp. It's going to happen, surely.
John Bailey.
It's a little side story. So Alfie recently caught that, at the start of this, caught that 28-pound massive pike, and he went on a day with John Bailey to do it. Like, it's one of John Bailey's lakes, him, Alf, and Dan. And I've never in my life been so jealous of someone catching a fish, not just because it's an enormous pike that I would obliterate my pike PB and I'd love to catch it, but also because he did it with John Bailey. And John Bailey is, like, to me, he's my angling hero, just because I had his book and he, like I said, it taught me so much. So John Bailey's
He's a massive influence on you, isn't he?
Yeah, big time. And
it's probably not what I'd expected. I thought you'd have been like, you know what I mean, the old John Wilson, Matt Hay. No, you're younger, mate, aren't you?
When it started to get into the carp fishing a bit more, it was all like thinking tackle and things like that. But like those early 10 to sort of 14, 15, that John Bailey encyclopaedia was,
the one.
That taught me a lot. Yeah, so I do owe a lot to him. So I would love one day to get invited on these trips with
He's plugging it.
I know you're watching.
He's using this podcast.
I know you're watching, Alan and Dan, and I know you know how much I want to go. Next time there's an option to go with John Bailey, and there's a free space,
filthy,
I would absolutely love it. I don't
cry
care.
Out for an invite.
There will be a lot of shameless plugs in this podcast.
You're
me.
better
Don't you worry
than that.
about it. I'm not better than that.
I'm going to edit them out.
I am not better than that at all. But yeah, that is John Bailey. I owe a lot to for my fishing.
The carp you caught with your granddad back in the UK.
Yeah.
In terms of your actual fishing for those carp, I'm guessing that there was some semblance of sort of tactics, methods, baits.
It was just pleasure fishing with a float in the edge,
Okay.
like what I was doing It was exactly what I was doing in Switzerland on the big lake.
Yeah.
But the fish were just bigger. The lake was smaller, but it was exactly the same. Just shot on a float, fishing, kissing bottom, waiting for it to go under, and you just every now and then catch a carp, and it'd be like, I remember really enjoying. I remember catching one off the top ones, like a 12, 13 pounder, which was big, and I was really, really impressed and like, wow. But a lot of people go, I caught my first carp and that was it. I was hooked forever. There was never that really for me until this Swiss lake. So like I said, I've chucked a load of bait in the edge on John Bailey's advice in the book. Gone around and done a lap. Pike fishing, probably caught 3 or 4 pike, and we got back to the start. I think my mate had built a fire. We were cooking some sausages or something, and I said, "Oh, where you just get the fire going? I'm just going to go and have a look at where I put the sweet corn." I remember sort of like trudging through the undergrowth, peeking over this reed bed, and looking through to where the lily pads where I'd thrown the bait, and just 3 or 4 enormous carp, and I'm talking absolutely massive carp, just tails up, feeding on it, and we're like, oh my god, it's actually happened. Like, not when I put it in there thinking there's no way anything's gonna eat. I'm gonna come back in a couple of hours and the sweet corn's just gonna be there completely dead. I just got this image in my head, and I hope it always stays with me, this image, just this vivid image of just looking over and just seeing these fish tails up. It's huge. So I ran back to my mate and said, there's carp for you there, and he's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with this fire. So I just snipped off the trace, tied on a size 8 hook, 3 or 4 kernels of sweet corn, went back round, slowly flicked it out, really slack line, just watched the line, and then after about sort of 10, 15, 20 minutes, there's so many times where the carp are over you. You know what it's like stalking for for carp in the edge on clear water where you think it's stuck in my hook bait in now. It must be loads of that happening. But I'm thinking, no, I'm watching that slack line and waiting for it to pull away. And once it does, that's when I'll strike. And eventually it did. Struck into it, and just that first run, just all the way out to the middle of the lake, and just screaming for my mate, like panicking because I don't have a clue what really is going on. It's going, you've got to come, you've got to help me, bring my net, because I had like a little one of those, those collapsible fold up nets that you sort of like, I had one of them. So he brings it around, and it's just going out. And like, there's quite although a lot of the weed did die down in the middle, there was still a little bit left, and it sort of got stuck in one of them. And I was like, I'm just going to go out and chase it. So I start wading out. There's a lot of silt in there. It was not too deep, but it's a lot of silt. And I'm sort of just like trudging through. Eventually it starts coming free again, pulling it round. It is just proper hairy. It's just one of those just absolute frantic, not chaotic battles where you never feel like you got the upper hand. You just sort of like reacting constantly to what's going on. But yeah, eventually this huge shape just comes towards me. I get this crappy little net that's probably cost me 10 quid off Amazon to buy, scoop it up, try to lift it. It just all breaks in it itself, but that is still in the net. So I just like bundle it all together. And I just remember like sort of looking at this crumpled mess of net, looking in, just seeing this massive carp, like huge, and just trudging back to the bank and just showing my mate. Bear in mind at this point, I've seen a 13-pound carp before. Yeah. The biggest thing he's ever seen is like a 5-pound pike. Just showing him, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And go back to him. Yeah, oh my god. So we've got probably like, what would they have been, like iPhone 1s back, like iPhone 2s or something like that. So he's got one of them. Take the pictures on that, and just as I'm sorting out to take the picture, like a school nature trail comes round with like a load of primary school kids and teachers. So right. I went to an international school, but then obviously the Swiss schools, local schools, we had different holiday time, and we were on holiday. They weren't. So it was during school hours. It's during the week that this school like field trip almost came round. There was like three or four teachers and a load of kids, and I remember just lifting up this fish, and these teachers shouted at me in Swiss German, going, "You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be fishing here. Like, what do you think you're doing with that carp, with that fish? Put it back." And I'm just like, back in English, like, "Yeah, I know. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm getting a picture though. Let me get a picture." So my mate gets a picture, and in the picture you can see all the legs of the students and the kids looking down, and I'm just like holding it like that, like, "Oh my god, what is this carp?"
What were the kids saying? They must have been amazed.
I think they were just like baffled. It was quite a way away because there was so much. There was like a path, and there was all the undergrowth, and then there was us, but you could see it all clearly. But I think they were just like pretty impressed, but also probably a bit confused. And why is this English kid with that massive fish over there? But yeah, it was.
You played the English card as well. That's good. I'm really sorry.
I learned that very easy, very soon after getting caught a few times, just to act like you don't have a clue and that you're foreign and you didn't realise the rules.
It's pretty well policed then in terms of the actual general fishing around.
Really well policed. Really well policed. Like it's the same as Germany where there's no catch and release. Yeah. So you got to kill everything. They're even strict on it over there. You got to take like a big quiz test thing to get your license. Hardly can fish anywhere. It's just really strict. I think it's starting to open up a little bit more. Like I'm seeing more and more carp fishing over there, which there was just none really when I was growing up. But just really strict to the point where it was like I've never got any hope really of doing it legally, I guess. And so I'm just gonna sort of do what I want, see what I can get away with, and just do that. And like I said, I could get away with quite a bit at this Swiss lake. So I'd go there quite a lot. This one from Eurobank 6. So yeah, I slipped this one back, and then that just sort of like fueled the carp fishing, and that was when it was like, right, I'd go down there every time I could and just fish that tactic of just
free lining with sweet corn.
Free lining with sweet corn. I'd get down there, a couple of tins of sweet corn, bait like 5 or 6 areas, do a lap, and just keep doing laps until I start seeing them feeding on one of them, and then just flick it out. And I'd tell you what, I've learned so much from doing that, because you see, like I said, it was crystal clear. You see everything. You see the way the carp reacts, what it spooks off of, the way it feeds. That just loads that you can't learn from a John Bailey fishing book, that you can only learn from seeing it yourself and angling yourself. And yeah, it was a incredible place that I soon realised that. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the photo of Ollie's photo from there. It's like 3 carp holes.
Oh yeah.
And there's a carp sat in the middle. So that was at like one bay. It was almost like a rectangle. That was one end. And they loved to spend all their time there. So you pretty soon realised what the stock was, how big they were. You could tell all of them pretty between, because although there was only, they were, I'm pretty sure there was 2 or 3 different strains of carp in there. I don't know how they got there. Really don't know how they got there. But from what I caught, there was 2 groups of what looked quite similar. 2 groups where they would look different to each other, but there was like 3 or 4 in each group that looked quite similar to one another. So you could distinguish them. And me and my mate, we sort of figured out there's like 9 carp in there. This probably what was the second biggest was the one I caught first time around, which was about 33 pounds.
That's a big fish.
That's a big fish from when
the
your biggest
lake's
one's
not big,
there.
is it?
No, it's about 2 acres, an acre and a half, 2 acres. And bear in mind, there's no boilies going in there. It's under thick ice for 4 months of the year. Like they're old fish.
They're
really
hard though, aren't they?
Hard old fish. And there was no more new fish coming through because I just don't think they will be able to survive. What I think what's happened is at some point someone's gone down, they've had carp in their pond or something, and just released them in there, and they've survived because I just don't think, with the number of jack pike in there and with how cold it would get, I just don't feel like there's any way they would spawn successfully and like that spawn reaching to be old enough to then not get eaten by the pike. I just don't think there's any way it would happen. So it was basically the plan was for the next sort of however long I was living in Switzerland, however long I was going to be fishing there, was just to try and catch as many as I possibly could. I remember that spring catching sort of like 2 or 3. Like I said, I caught the second biggest straight away. I remember losing the biggest twice the following autumn, the following spring after the snow melt, which 100% was £40 plus.
Really?
And both times.
That's a big old special fish, isn't it?
Big old special fish. And the first time I lost it, hooked it, it just went on a run, and the hook pinged out. The second time, the hook pinged out as I was trying to net it. And looking back now in retrospect, I think both times it was because you're free lining and you're trying to set the hook with what's quite a it's yellow thunder. Like it's not a proper rod to be setting that hook. Like there's so much stretch there that you're not getting good hook holds. Like, I would lose a fair few fish from just the hook just coming out, and I think it's just because you're not getting good enough hook holds on them where you're striking, so you never really know at what point where that hook's in there that you're then making the impact to strike. Whereas you know that with a rig, normally with a bump machine, it's on that blowout hopefully, and you're getting it hoping when it's turning around and getting them in a good position. Whereas you could be just getting them the scissors or something when you're striking, and just because of how much stretch there is how much give there is in the rod, with it being quite a weak rod, you're not driving that hook home either. So I lost quite a few like that. I remember losing, but to be honest, it's not. I remember at the time being gutted, but it's one I soon got over. I don't know why. I just almost like they're always going to be there. That must have been what I was thinking. So I will catch it eventually. Sadly, I never did. I think I caught like 7 of them. There was a smallish mirror that I never caught, and there was that big mirror that I never did catch. I remember one time, me and my mates, we tried to get through on the carp hole side from Ollie's photo. We tried to get through that side, and we spent ages walking. That's where the undergrowth is really thick. Walking through, and we actually stood in the water. I was float fishing from this. Had a float to fish from because I was fishing quite far out into the carp holes where it was a lot deeper, and when they started feeding, it would murk it up. So I remember just thinking, I'll just fish with a float. It'll make things a lot easier. And me and my mate stood there for ages. I've got a photo somewhere of our legs covered in mosquito bites, like from where we went shorts there to down where our legs were in the water, just covered in mosquito bites, where we'd stood there for an hour or two. And I remember waiting all day. There was a carp keep coming in and feeding. Waiting there all day. My mate getting annoyed that we'd still there. And just as they were really on me, and I think the bite's going to come any second, park ranger comes by and is on the far side in his truck. And we're like, right, we've got to get back, just hiding in the growth. So I just dropped my rod. There was like a tiny little island clump there. I just put my rod on that. We just walked back. and we were just watching him go round. And as I'm watching him go round, that float just...
No.
And then the rod just starts like pulling along, and then it just goes. Like the fish just comes off, and it just stops. And I remember just thinking, oh, good. But we just spent all this time, like 2-3 hours, just literally stood in the water, no waders or anything like that, just in shorts, covered in mosquito bites. And yeah, we didn't even get the fish, didn't even manage to catch a fish from it. But I always have a mate who gives me so much stick for that to this day, because he was like, well, I don't know why we even went through there in the first place, and you convinced me to stay and you didn't even catch one. And then as I was getting more and more into my fishing at this point, and obviously you've got more into my carp fishing specifically. I really remember watching Eurobanks 2. Going down to the lake the next day, catching like one of the upper 20s in there. I really remember slipping it back, thinking this would be a great venue for a Eurobanks. What an amazing venue this would be for Eurobanks. Like, from what I can see from Ollie and Alan on YouTube, they look like this is the type of fishing they'd love. I just thought, yeah, they'd love it. They'd love it here.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, and then...
Did you ever... You must have caught the same fish that Al caught then.
Yes, the very last fish I ever caught from there was the one that Al caught.
Was it?
Yeah. So I went... That's when I was at uni. My last year living in Switzerland. Before my parents moved back quite recent, like sort of when I was halfway through uni. And it must be my first year at uni this summer. I went down. I always remember I was there with my girlfriend at the time and my mate who I used to do the fishing with, and we got down there threw the bait in. Started walking around, and one started feeding, and I flicked it out and was waiting there, and my girlfriend was trying to ask me loads of stuff, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. And my mate turned to her. I always remember this. I'm so glad he said this to her. He said, "Just, you can't get through to him at the moment. Just let him do what he wants." And I'm so glad he said that, because
it's like your personal voicemail.
It really was, because when I was there and I had the fish feeding, I just didn't want anyone to speak to me. Like, my mates would sometimes come up and creep behind me and try and watch him. I'd be like, "Stop moving! Like, the shadow, you're going to spook him. Just stop, stay still. Like, stop interfering. Like, everything needs to be perfect, and you're messing with it." And I'm so glad he said that, because I was doing my best to not snap at her basically and go, "Shut up, stop asking me questions," because it wouldn't have gone down very well. I'm so glad he did it and just went, "Look, just let him get on with it. Just, you can't get through to him right now." And
take it all right?
Yeah, she's just sort of like, "Oh, right, okay." And then thankfully it only took like 5 minutes to get the bite. And then, yeah, it was that old one that Alan had, that amazing one. And yeah, you can see it in Eurobank 6, that lake. And I'm so glad that they did go there and they captured it the way that they did, because it just makes it, yeah, it's really, like I said, it's a really special lake. And I remember Dan sent me the edit when it was done, and I was really looking forward to it, because I said, as soon as you're done with the edit, that part of it, please just send it to me. And I remember just ringing him, ringing Dan and saying thank you for the way you've edited, and then ringing Alan and saying thank you for that, because you've captured it perfectly. And
it's a massive part of you. And your
growing
history,
up, a huge part. And Alan and Ollie, I mean, they really looked there. They put the drone up and everything, and they could only find 2 carp, which means, like I said, that old fish, to get to that weight in those conditions, harsh environment, I really think that they're on their way out, more or less. And it's so nice that I've got those memories. I've got that Eurobanks segment to look back on. And
it's quite a nice,
what an incredible place.
Quite a nice symmetry in it, in the fact that the last fish you caught is the last fish that Al caught, and potentially the last fish that's in that lake.
Yeah. I think the other one that was judging from the drone shots, it's hard to tell. But I think that the other one was the first one I ever caught from there. Was that 32? I think it was 32.4, something like that, 32 or 33.4. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was that one.
Incredible fish.
Crazy.
Crazy. You said there was different strains, so that you've got those sort of sliced apple, beautiful, gnarly old things. What did you have any commons in there? Was it all
no
mirrors?
Commons, all mirrors? But it was like, I remember the first one I caught, it had this tiny tail. It was like a leather almost, and like a paley sandy colour. And then compare that to the one, like real small head, and then compare that to Alan's one that he caught. That was like completely different. It was like dark, wasn't it? And had all these colorations and pigments, and they could be the same strain, just different colours and stuff on. But I don't know, they did look really different. And there was 3 or 4 of the bigger mirrors, like the upper 20s and then the 33 that looked like that. But then the big mirror and then the smaller mirrors were this darker strain. And yeah, who knows where they came from? Who knows? It's almost nice not knowing, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, like just still being so much mystery about the place. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I nearly went back to Switzerland this summer just gone. I had to visit a few friends and was going to fish there then. And I might this summer if we can travel. And I do really want to go fish it, but I almost don't. It's a difficult one. I'm definitely going to go down and have a look and see what I see. But if it's not the same, and like I've ended it on such a good note. Well, it's not even me as ended it. Like that Eurobanks has almost ended it for me. And yeah, it's almost like I just want to keep it as it is.
Yeah, I've been on venues like that, and it's hard.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. I think everyone has a venue like that where they grow up, they learn so much, and it's just so magical. And yeah, like if you're going to say that you went back to it and it's not the same, like you must want to keep it as it is, don't you?
Yeah. You don't want the old last memory of the place to be
a bit crap. Yeah.
But either way, mate, it'd be good. That's that. Yeah. So brilliant chapter. I mean, yeah, you've done well to escape park rangers. I'm guessing there was a few run-ins with the park rangers.
Yeah, of course. I remember one time we had rods out. There was like a little gravelly beach barbecue play area on there as well. Me mates were there. We had like 2 rods out in front of us. Again, just sort of flicking out. We saw the park ranger come on the far banks. There's a little road that ran past it, like a little gravel dirt path. And we saw him come around on the far side. So we were like, quick, get the rods, hide them. And he came round just in Swiss German. He's just going to us. He's like, what are you doing? Like, I just saw you all run to your rods and hide them over there. He's like, I think he caught us before. I think I've told you before, stop coming down here. Next time I'll call the police and you'll get a fine or whatever it is. But
he never did that, did he?
He was all right with it. Like we were pretty, I remember because there would be people walking around it and this is where I learned about being just English and not knowing what's going on, just be foreign and claim ignorance. They would come around and the old Swiss people on their dog walk would go, fishing, you're not allowed to fish here. Like they would ask, they'd be nice about it. They'd just go, just so you know, you're not allowed to fish here actually. And I'd go, oh, sorry, didn't realise. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll stop, I'll go home now. And they'll carry on the dog walk. They're gone, rod's back out. Yeah. You just do that. But like, I always thought, you're never doing anything wrong, are you? Like, you're just catching them, putting them back. Just
Yeah.
That's how. Yeah. That's yeah. It's fun. Yeah. It was. I never got badly caught. I remember getting caught on a river once by the police, and I just caught like a nice like 4 or 5 pound chub, and them having a proper go at me, going, "We're going to fine you." And actually, some Swiss people had watched me land it, and they were going back to the police, going, "Oh, leave him alone. He's only a kid. Like he doesn't know. He's English. Like he's just going to put it back. Let him go on with it." And the police gave me a bit of a bollocking, but they let me go. So I've never actually had a bad instant. I've always just claimed. I've always just back then, you're 13, 14, just been like a cute kid and just, I'm sorry. Yeah. Now it won't work. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
That has set the precedent for some guesting though, hasn't it, mate, in the course of your future angling. We'll talk about that later. Switzerland, as a chapter, you're obviously not still there because you're here. No. What was sort of next? Because I'm guessing there was some movement in terms of you moving elsewhere, moving on. What was the reason behind that? Where did you go?
So, like I said, that lake in Switzerland was probably the only place I ever found. Yeah, was the only place I ever found where it had decent sized carp in. There was a few lakes I found where there's like loads and loads of like 2-pounders. But if you want to catch anything decent size, that was the only place I found in Switzerland that you could 1, get away with fishing, and 2, catch them. So that was it. And as I got more and more into my carp fishing at this point, I'm starting to watch Thinking Tackle. I'm starting to watch on Discovery Shed all the carp fishing shows they had on there, and you're learning more and more about 3 rods on alarms, like bite alarms, hair rigs, things like that. And I was like, right, I want to do that type of carp fishing. Look at the size of the carp that they're catching. I want to catch them the proper way. Nowhere in Switzerland you could do that type of fishing. Nowhere. After a bit of digging, I found that my local water was a French holiday venue in the Champagne region of France. And that was pretty much 4 hours of drive away, but that was my local carp fishing water, more or less. So this was probably not long after I caught my first, the 30-pounder from the Swiss lake, that I begged and pleaded with my dad to take me there. Like I said, my dad's not a fisherman, But so it was a lot of begging and pleading. But eventually, I convinced him to take a long weekend from work, and we'd drive to the 4-hour drive to the place in France. We'd go fishing, and we'd come back. And oh god, I still remember the tackle I brought there. It was terrible. Like, bear in mind, this is probably when it'd been 2011, 2012. So like the French holiday venue time, like the boom of that, where people are going, like they know the score. Like it's not some Swiss forest lake that you just rock up on and flick. Like
it's pretty much like fishing in England.
Yeah. But for 50s and 50 pounders. And I just had like this. I remember saying to my dad, what's the deal I made with my dad? I had something like, if I saw all the tackle and pay for my part of the fishing, then he'd agree to drive me there and we could go. So I had to sort tackle for my dad as well. And obviously 14, 13-year-old kid making money like mowing lawns and stuff like that. So I didn't have loads of money. So I just saw, those Argos deals, 100 quid for like a full setup. Just got 2 of them.
Everyone's done them, mate.
2 of them, yeah. But they do that and go fish for £10. I was going fish for £40 and £50 with it. I was like, I still remember like the rig I had tied up at like just mono hook because I couldn't afford braid. So just fishing mono for the hook link, just herring all the way through. I remember getting a pack of 100 hooks for like £5, and they're just the wire gained. I remember the owner coming round and his name was Lee, and to be honest, I probably owe him quite a lot as well because he taught me a lot about carp. I think he saw how keen I was, but saw how unprepared I was, and just taught me quite a lot. I remember him coming around and going, after like 2 days, we hadn't caught anything. He's like, "Let me come down and let's see what we can do to change it." I just remember him like must have looked at my gear and gone, "What the like swivels above the fucking lead clips and stuff like that." And
but good of him though, he didn't.
Really good of him. Like he could have just gone, "What are you doing? This is a death rig. Get out. You're never come back here again." Like the wire on this hook is just going to straighten out. No, he was really sound and was like, "No, look, this is what you need to do. Here, use this." Helped us a lot, to be fair. I mean, I really do cringe thinking about what we brought. It was terrible, but we didn't catch anything that first trip. There was 2 lakes on site, and there was a third one that was sort of starting to be done up. They didn't really know what was in there, and I just spent a lot of time just float fishing in there because it was so hot during the day that you really didn't feel like you had even then with so little carp fishing, I just really didn't think I had a chance. And it was more like carp fishing's for the night with the bite alarms. The day I'll just go float fishing. I caught a load of tench and I think I caught like a 17-pound carp in there. So I loved it, absolutely loved it. Camping with my dad in the middle of France, it was amazing. So as soon as we could, when we got back, even though I hadn't done very well, that was it. I knew I had that foundation now where I could take on information I saw in Thinking Tackle and read in magazines and not be like, what's PVA? What's a knotless knot? What's a leader? What are they talking about? I now knew. So like, as opposed to it now being like a foreign language, I sort of knew what they're talking about and could learn from it. So I spent so much time like trying to learn as much as I could, trying to collect gear over the course of a year to then go back the next year. I remember we went back the next year. My brother wanted to come along. I still wanted to float fish a lot during the day, and then the carp fishing was for night. I was still going down that route, and I remember the swim that I was on backed onto the other lake that I was float fishing. I remember I'd got the rods out and I was float fishing in this other lake on the first night back. My brother and dad were together, and I was by myself in this swim, and just got the rods out again. Probably just pub chucking with PVA bags on. Still what I do to this day for my angling.
So yeah. You are mocking my angling massively.
And as I'm float fishing, behind me, I just hear wee. I'm like, what's that? Because like I think I'd caught one fish on a bite alarm before this in England when I went back to England. One fish on a bite alarm. I'm like, oh my god, that's my rod, and run round, bend into my 10-pound Argos rods or whatever they are, and just playing this fish for ages, and it gets wrapped around a buoy. Oh. And my dad's coming around, and I'm like stressing, like, go get Lee, the bailiff, see if he can come out in the boat and untangle it. And after like 20 minutes of undoing it, the fish is gone. That was so painful. I remember like, I wouldn't be surprised if I did cry that night, but like generally, like 14-year-old kid, all you wanted to do was catch big fish. And you almost feel like that's your only chance, because the last time we did 3 nights and didn't catch anything. I was like, that's it. That's my chance. I've blown it. And just going to bed that night, just been absolutely distraught.
I think it's worth a few Mike Wilson tears over that. Mate,
yeah,
definitely.
I like so distraught. I remember so later that night, my dad, I had another run. This time successfully landed it.
Go on, Henry.
It was big fat 27-pound French carp, which is just amazing. I remember my dad came round because like I said, my dad and my brother in the next swim, put it in the net and everything, just left it, ran around to my dad going, I've got one, come around and take a photo. And my dad took some terrible photos on whatever camera it was. And I remember him saying to me, I'm so glad you've caught that because I couldn't deal with you sulking for the next 3-4 days over the loss of that other one. And yeah, that was just it. You know, you got those captures growing up where it's like, you look back on, you think, yeah, that changed a lot for me. And that was one of them. That was when it's, because almost before then, it was like, that style of carp fishing was the real big boy leagues, like the pros. And now you've done it, you kind of like, okay, you can catch them like that. And this is what I was going back to before saying about Yellow Thunder. And I almost felt like I could never do it because I didn't have a grand's worth of reel there. I didn't have 3 rods that cost a similar amount. I didn't have the latest bivvy. That's why I wasn't doing it. But then because I did do it on this cheap setup that I had, it was almost like, yeah, okay, you can do it. And it is not that it's skill based really, because like it wasn't skill based, that catcher. I just chucked a rig out and it went. But it's like you don't need to. You can catch fish the way I was catching them in Switzerland with like that, just the determination and just wanting to catch them. And it's not like the fish don't care that you've spent £1,000 on reels. No. They don't give a shit.
They can't see you.
No. Like I said, they only see that last 3, 4, 5 foot. So as long as you can get the rod there, it's fine. And that really made it click for me. Like, okay, this isn't some mythical style of angling that only the pros can catch fish through. It is, you can do it. So that was it. Like that was, I was hooked on carp as a species, and this made me get hooked on carp fishing. And yeah, it was just that trip. I remember going home, showing my mum the pictures, being amazed, putting it on my Facebook. All my mates commenting like, what is this kid doing? Like none of my mates fished besides that one mate, but he wasn't even into it too much. It was always me dragging him along. All my mates just with this huge carp that looked bigger than me, just fat belly, going, that fish is ugly, what are you doing? And just being like, I don't care.
Had you not put any of the Swiss fish up on Facebook or anything like that to this point? Was Facebook not a thing back?
Yeah, I think I had.
Was it the same?
But it was because they're like, I just remember this one. It was a proper French wrong'un, a proper French wrong'un. You know those pale ones that just circle.
They're the ones.
Yeah,
man.
they are the ones. And I think it was just that, like, and just the enormity. Like with the 30-pounder one, the 30-pounder I caught in Switzerland I was like holding it quite close to my chest, so you can't really see the side. Whereas this one, I don't know. It wasn't intentional by my dad to get that angle of it, but he somehow got the angle where it just looks enormous. And I just remember all my friends just being like, what are you doing? But I was just like, I didn't care. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And that just opened it for me. And from that point on, it was pestering my dad as much as possible to go back to these lakes so I could go and fish there, to the point where when I was probably like 14, maybe a little bit older, 15, I started getting trains there by myself from Switzerland. Yeah. And looking back now, I cannot believe my parents let me do that. It would take me about 10 hours on trains. 10 hours on the train? Like 8 or 9 different transfers through the middle of nowhere in France. Like some of the train stations I ended up on were like Rayleigh train stations bigger. Like the middle of nowhere. I would save up all my money for these train tickets. Go down. You couldn't even book it through the normal machines. To book it, you had to go into the office because it was such a complex route. They had to book it for you specially. I would load up. Thankfully, Lee, the bailiff there, would let me borrow a bivvy and a tent, and I didn't have to bring landing nets and hooking mats because they're supplied by the fishery. But still, I was going there for like a week, 10 days at a time. So I'd have like a massive bag on my front, a massive bag on my back, a massive bag on my front, and my rod bag. I'd have like a bag full of food. Basically, I could only move if I'd loaded myself up in a certain way. Like I had this process where I'd load myself up. I did this like 5 or 6 times from the age of 14, 15. Like I can't believe I never got mugged, never got abducted or anything. Like my dad,
You're too heavy to abduct, mate.
not back then. To be fair, that was my argument to my mum. I remember my mum was really against it. My dad, whatever, let him do what he wants. But my mum was really against it. But I was always quite tall for my age. I remember saying to my mum, like, "Oh, come on." Even at 14, I was probably like 6'1". I was like, "Come on, mum, I'm 6'1". Like, no one's gonna mess with me. But looking back now, I was probably like 6'1", but about 8 stone. Like, if anyone wanted to do anything to me, they 100% could. So, thankfully, nothing ever happened to me on those trips out there. And Lee, I've not spoke to Lee for ages. I might actually try and reach out to him after this. This just reminded me a lot because I do owe him a lot. He would pick me up from a station that was like 45 minutes away, pick me up, drive me there, give me some of the stuff, and let me just crack on. And they were just the best trips.
What
ever.
did you catch, mate? Apart from that £27 on that trip?
I remember catching my first. So those first few trips where I'd go on myself and it would be like a holiday. I didn't break the £40 barrier, although it was there was a couple of 50s in there, but the main stamp was sort of upper 20, low 30. It wasn't like the premium French fisheries like you have now, where they've got 80s and then like there's loads of 40. Like if you don't catch a 40 that week, it's a bad week. I remember like one time I was there and all 8 anglers fishing caught a 40, and that was like the first time ever that the fishery had done it. So it wasn't like it was a big fish water, but it wasn't a French big fish water, you know. So I hadn't caught loads. I remember one session there catching. I'd just gone for. This was one time when we were driving to England. We used to drive to England from Switzerland every Christmas. It took about 13 hours, and we always stopped off halfway. And this lake, you could kind of make it sort of halfway-ish if I pestered my parents enough.
Yeah.
And this was one of the times where basically I had 36 hours there, where they stayed at a hotel nearby and they just explored the local area and they just let me fish for 36 hours. I remember that session catching 4 fish up to a low 30. I remember catching a 28-pound linear, and I remember them coming and just like pleading with them, going like, I'd rather stay here the whole time. Like, don't.
Cancel
No, it wasn't
Christmas.
Christmas actually. It wasn't Christmas. It was a summertime. We used to drive over in summer or Christmas each year. Each year we'd drive over from Switzerland to England, and this must have been one time when we did it in the summer. I remember going like, just let me stay here for 2 weeks. Like, I'd much rather stay here for 2 weeks than go back to England. They're like, no, you're not staying here for 2 weeks. Like, you're coming with us. And I'm like, no, please let me stay. Please, please, please. And they go, no, come on, you're coming. But anyway, as I got more and more like pally with Lee, he started letting me come, not pay for the fishing, work with him all day, and then fish the nights, which I was more than happy to do.
Work with him. What did he do there?
So like just lake maintenance, like lake management.
Oh, as in like the actual fishery?
Yeah,
you didn't have a business on?
No. Like just helping around the lake, sorting out the anglers if they ever needed anything, repairing swims. I remember probably doing more damage on a digger than good and help. But so I started doing that. I remember one winter going, I can't believe I did this. Again, getting the train there and everything. Took me ages to get there. And it would be warm during the day. It'd be like 10, 12 degrees, but at night it would drop to like -10. It'd be absolutely freezing. And Lee wouldn't fish. He had a caravan on site. He's staying there with a log burner. And I was like, no, I'm fishing for this. I remember borrowing like 2 sleeping bags from him, having like 3 water bottles. I remember just freezing there, absolutely freezing. I would have to wake up because the lake would freeze at night. I have to wake up every like 2 hours and smashing a hole around my lines to keep the lines in. That trip, that was one of 2 times I went in the winter, and that was because the winter was hard going. Like, it was tough. You're working all day and then you're just sore from all the work, and then you're fishing in freezing cold conditions. But I remember catching like an 18, 19 pounder under the ice there once. Just getting a single bleep. I was fishing a withy pool rig. I just learned about the withy pool rig. Mate, it's a clay bottom. There is no need to fish a withy pool rig there.
It's
just a
Carp.
Yeah, exactly. I remember learning about that, going, that's a good rig, that withy pool rig. I'm going to fish with that. And it was probably like the worst. I can't even imagine what it would look like. I imagine if someone showed me that now, going, "This, you fished with this." Going, oh God. But like an 18, 19 pounder through the ice. I'm just getting a single bleep, going out. I'm just watching just the bobbin just do that for ages. Going, is it a liner? Is it a fish? So you're hitting it, reeling it in. Like, it's 89 pounder. I got a great shot of me with the lake frozen behind me, holding the fish out, like all fingers and thumbs, like I still am now when I hold fish. But Yeah, that was amazing. That fish actually went on to be the lake record.
Really?
Yeah.
What did the lake record go?
It's like 58, 59 pounds now. There was 2 lakes aside. This was the other lake, and that was the lake record. I caught it like 18 pounds.
You had it 18 pound. It got to 50,
58, 59, something like that. Yeah, yeah. It was because I remember it came up as a memory on the fishery changed hands, but the Facebook page stayed the same. I knew the new owners as well. And it came up as a memory, and they shared it as like, oh, baby-faced Henry. This was a couple of years ago. They shared it as like, oh, baby-faced Henry, when he used to come and do work parties before we owned it. Here he is with a fish in the ice. And then he comments later going, actually, this fish is now, I think it's called Steffi or something, the lake record fish.
Oh, this is now called Lennon.
I wish. This is Steffi. It's now a lake record, £58. It's like, yeah, that is. Like, in the space of like 6-7 years, it's put on that weight. French fish, proper French fish. French fish. But it was the summer work trips. That's where I started catching quite a few, where I'd go for like 2-3 weeks at a time. And work all day, and that's where I really learned about like height of summer, really, really warm. And over here, and I always thought this before this, and it wasn't until fishing in France's time, and then it was confirmed when I fished in Italy a couple of years later, that when it gets to like unbearable hot, where you're really hot, they don't want to be in the shallows at all. They want to be in the deepest water possible because it's uncomfortable for them. It's in like 27 degrees or something. Carp is the optimal temperature for carp to synthesize protein. Then after that, it starts to get uncomfortable for them. So they're trying to find that 27 degree water in the shallows. If it's 40 degrees, 38 degrees, it's not 26. It's really, they don't want to be there either. So they find the deepest water. And whenever I'd go and do these summer work parties, I'd go and fish. I'd go and fish this one swim. It was the furthest walk from anywhere. You could normally drive your gear around in the tractor and a trailer. That's what I used to do, and I crashed that so many times. But you couldn't get the tractor around here, so you had to walk your gear. It was a long walk. It was deep, so no one ever fancied it. So I would pack up at the start of each Saturday, because with the changeover day, I was there for like 3 weeks, to see if the anglers wanted to use it, but no one ever went in there. So I'd always be fishing the same swim, and it was a great swim because it was so deep in the corner. The fish would just get there during the day. The rest of the lake stitched it with anglers. I'm leaving during the day. I'd just sprinkle a little bit of bait in as I left in the morning. I'd come back and I'd always catch a fair few. And I had my first 40 pounder from there. I'm trying to think if my very first 40 pounder, which is still my PB to this day.
Is it?
Yeah, still to this day.
Talk us through the capture of that in that corner.
So it was in that deep corner. Like I said, they were just. It was so warm in there in that part of France during the summer, like 35 easy. And I'm just convinced that with all the pressure there, with it being the deep water, they'd just come down. It was like a bit of. So it's like a square of the lake. You had a load of islands in the middle dotting it, and then you had down in this corner you had 2 swims, and there was a big bar between them. So you almost had like your own water. You couldn't fish over the bar. And I think that they maybe they would go out a little bit into the islands in the middle, but then they'd come back along that bar and just come and sit in that deep margin. And that's where I'd just bait on that deep margin. And when I'd go around and fish it at night, I'd cast my bare leads over to that bare margin through the really tall reeds, put the rig on, then just lean as far over as I could and just drop it down there. I was fishing right up against the reeds, and I was catching I think this was the trip where I had like every night was catching 2 fish almost at the exact same time. One at about 9-10 o'clock as the sun set, and then one at some point between 2 and 4 in the morning, like guaranteed. I wouldn't go to bed until I had my first fish, and then I'd wake up on my second one, and then I'd put them, and then I'd take a night shot of the first one, and the second one I'd sack, then I'd take a photo of that at first light, then I'd reel in, put the bait in, and go to the canteen. And so I'd like 4th, 5th night in, have this run. I remember it being a full moon, and I remember having the run, going out, not having my head torch up with me, and I remember playing the fish. I had it on for like 10 minutes thinking, oh, this is a good one. This is a real good one. And going back and trying to find my head torch and not being able to find it. But I remember thinking it will be all right because the moon's so bright. Like I can see pretty much everything. It was fine. It was a long fight. I remember it being like 25, 30 minutes. And eventually it pops up, this shape, and I could see the head, and I'm trying to net it. I remember keep trying to net it, and it just wouldn't work, and it kept swimming around. I'm going, what is it stuck on something? What's happening? And basically it's where it's so big and I can't see it properly. Yeah. I'm not going all the way underneath its body. I can't believe I didn't bump it off at any point here. Eventually I do get it in the net, put the net to the side, go back, find my head touch to shut on, and just go, oh my God, that is, I think my biggest at the point was about 36, 37.
Yeah.
So still that, like,
Chunk.
it's not loads bigger, but this is like, wow, this is huge.
It's a benchmark figure, £40, isn't it?
Yeah. So this was, like I said, this was the 4 o'clock one. So I put it in a sack, waited for an hour and a half, and the guy fishing opposite at the time, because you could see opposite, like I said, there was a bar, but it was open water otherwise, like view-wise, you could see him. I remember going around to his. He was a bit of a nutter, that bloke. And
what do you mean?
He was just a bit of a. He wasn't all there. I don't think he was. He was. He was a really nice guy. He was just a bit erratic. He was, and I remember telling him, going, "Oh, I think I've got a good one. Can you come take a picture?" And he came round, and I got it on the mat, and he opened the sack, and he goes, "Yeah, fucking hell, that is a good one." And he goes, "What bait have you been using?" And I was using like this yellow bait, and he'd been shitting out all this yellow bait. And I go, "Oh, whatever it was at the time, blah blah blah, banana something." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I think it's been shitting out." And he goes and like picks up all the shit, and he just goes to sniff it. And I'm just thinking, "Oh, weirdo." And he goes, "Yeah, it is banana." And then he licks it and goes, "Yeah, definitely banana." I'm just thinking like, oh mate, I didn't need to know it like to that much confirmation. I was like, I was 99% sure that was my bait anyway. Like, you didn't have to taste
yellow.
it. Yeah, it's yellow. It smells of banana. You didn't have to eat it to confirm. So I remember the whole capture being a little bit overshadowed by I've just watched a man eat carp shit. Like that was weird. When I got these terrible photos of this 44.8 pound mirror. I remember I just for that trip I bought a brand new NGT rig wallet. And I remember after I caught it and weighed it that morning, I remember scratching it into it, 44.8. And I said, I'm not going to get a new one until I prepare this PB. I still use that rig wallet to this day because I've not broken that PB.
Do you?
Yeah. And I can never show it on when I'm doing anything because it's
not
NGT,
Nash.
it's not Nash. But I still won't get a new one until I've...
So you've done it like that?
Done it, yeah. So it was at the time, I was probably like 16 at this point. I was thinking, I'll catch it within a couple of years, easy. Yeah, it's been 8 years. Still going, yeah.
You need a bit more time on that church lake there.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Plug number 2.
Yeah, classic.
But later that trip as well, I caught another 40, 41, and just that, like I really did.
That's a brilliant trip then.
That trip, I remember that trip being a real good one. I think that was the last, it wasn't the last time I went for the summer. It was the last time I did that much fishing when I was there working in the summer, and that was, that made it all worthwhile. You
said there about bait, you're obviously using boilies.
Yep.
Rigs-wise, you said you were at the stage where you were experimenting, churning out loads of crazy different stuff.
Yeah, that Withy Pool one was probably 14, 15. At this point, I was fishing a blowback rig, basically. Just a quite simple blowback rig. It was, I remember at this point, I think it was because you got to remember that, so my fishing at this point, my carp fishing is very intense at short periods of time, but then the rest of the year it's a lot of nothing. And when there's a lot of nothing, but you still want to get your fishing fix, it's reading as many magazines as possible, which I would get whenever we had family or friends come over and visit from Switzerland. It's like, you can come, but you've got to buy a Carpology or a Carp World for Henry. Watching Discovery Shed, I'd come back from whatever sport I was playing at the time, rugby, basketball, football, come back in the evening from the training at like 8, 9 o'clock. My mum would have food that I'd microwave, and I'd just sit there watching one of the many recordings of Thinking Tackle or Matt Hayes' Rod Race or whatever it was. Doing that, and because on those shows they put a lot of importance on rigs, I therefore put a lot of importance on rigs and spent a lot of time thinking about my rigs, and basically just come down to that everything had to be very neat at that point. Around 16, 17, 18, that's when I was like, everything's got to be really neat now. Everything's got to be perfect. Everything's got to look right. Everything you pick has got to have a reason you've picked it. Like, and if you're not catching it, it's the rig's fault, which I now know. It's location, then it's bait, then it's rigs. Like, rigs don't matter, but for me it was rigs. Either two, just whatever. Yeah, they'll eat the bait. They'll come to this location, but rigs were the most important thing. So the rigs were really getting developed here, and I just remember having a very. It was a blowback rig, not with like a Kev blowback rig, but probably, you know what? I probably read about it on a Kev article in one of the Carp World or Total Carp or Carpology or whatever magazine. That's the first time I thought about that. probably that rig I was using, I used that for a long time until around 17, 18, I started using a IQD rig, because I saw it on the underwater films.
Yeah.
But for a good 2-3 years, and when I was catching a lot of fish when I was going to France, it was a blowback rig.
Ring blowback rig, or was it a bit
it was silicone because I wanted to see if I was getting done. Even though there was no bream in there, I wanted to know if I was getting done by a bigger carp. But to be honest, I never. It was more because it all looked a lot neater, and I just thought, I remember it being very neat. I remember everything having to be perfect. I remember because I had a little strip back section of the coating before that. I remember if that was if I felt like that was half a centimetre too long or too short, then that's it. That rig was rubbish. If it wasn't exactly 8 inches, everything had to be perfect. I was a lot more anal about my rigs then than I am now, definitely. But it was like, okay, I've caught a fish on that. Like I said, rigs are the most important thing. That's the reason I've caught it. So it's got to be exactly the same. Like any changes to that, and you might not get the next fish. So make it always perfect. But to be honest, mate, you could have. It's just a clay bowl, really. Like you could have fished anything that you presented. You just needed a sharp hook, which I know now, but it was good because it does make you think about other things you're angling and question why you do things, and going back to those variables and okay, they are variables that affect rig choice and rig components. They're not the most important, but they're still those variables that affect success or not success. So I did like that it was questioning and reasoning why, and it did make you think about when the carp goes down and feed, how's everything coming into play. I'm thinking about seeing those fish in Switzerland and how they interact when they come down and the way they feed, and okay, how's the rig going to work and the mechanics of that. Around that time I was really getting into it, and it was just because I love my fishing so much, and my carp fishing at that point, I love my carp fishing. I probably stopped. I was still pike fishing in the winter. I was not doing as much river fishing or anything in Switzerland. It was more, I was waiting for these big carp trips. And it really makes you think, and that's one of the things that you really can think about. And when you can't go fishing, you're not going to prep bait for no reason. But you are going to sit there and watch a YouTube video of Tyson rigs. So that's what I was doing a lot. So I was into my rigs quite a bit then, I'd say. That's what I was fishing with, a Kevin Nash blowback rig probably.
Go on, Kev.
Yeah. So it's weird. It's weird, isn't it? How these things are coming, like the Eurobanks thing, and that's honestly the first time I thought about that. There probably was Kev, because thinking back to it now and thinking of what that rig looked like and thinking of what Kev's blowback rig looks like, they're pretty much the same. So I think it must have been a Kev article.
And bait for you, obviously you had the Swiss was like the Swiss carp. We're all on sweet corn.
Yeah.
You got boilies here. Were you into that, or was that just bait that Lee had?
I remember having a little bit of a period where I wanted to roll my own, and I'd get my grandma to bring like a special flour and stuff over when she came to Switzerland, but they looked crap, mate. And that was to use in Switzerland, because whenever I went to France, I'd just buy what the lake had, because that's what we fed it. Yeah. They ate it, I caught on it, why would I change it? But it was more for Switzerland. And I remember feeding these messed up balls of different shapes and sizes of dough. I remember mixing it. What was the base mix? It was like this. Is it semolina flour that you use for like semolina and Angel Delight, chocolate Angel Delight?
That's old school.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's probably John Bailey. That's how I would have learned it from, probably in there. But mixing it and just throwing it in the edge and just not getting any response from these Swiss carp. Looking back now, no wonder you didn't get any response for them. I'm not surprised at all. I think so. Bait wasn't really anything. The most interesting play in bait was probably this winter, where I bought a lot of base mix stuff because I want to roll some corkball pop-ups, because Curly makes sick corkball pop-ups and I wanted to try and make some of my own ones. And I just bought all the stuff and never got round to it.
Just let Curly make them.
Just let Curly make them. Or just let Max makes great bait.
Max makes pretty good bait.
I'm going to make better bait than Max myself. Nah, I don't think you are.
A multi-million pound bait factory, but you want to see me roll.
The experience of Gary Bays and Max and Kev, I know better in my mum's kitchen. I'll just get a scope of squid. So bait's something. It's almost like, I always think with Kev actually taught me this. With bait, it's either you can either be different. You can get a bait edge in either the actual bait you use, so whether it's boilies, particle, mag, like naturals, anything like that, or the way you apply it. So something like, because scope it squid flake and scope it squid is the same bait, but flake is different applying it to boilies. So that's always so that's what I think about when I'm using bait, but I never think about, I'm going to make my own bait. I just think, right, okay, they've been hammered on this lake. This is me now thinking they've been hammered on this lake with whole boilies, so I'll use flake. They've been hammered on little flake traps in the edge, so I'm going to fish over 5-6 kilos of flake. or just things like that. That's how I think about bait now. Those two options. That's how you can get bait edge. Go down either one of those routes, and and then that's it. That's all I think about. Like I hate it when people are like, "Oh, I'm not catching on boilies today. I'm not catching on sticky krill, so I'm going to give Nash scope at squid a go." It's like you've made no real change there. You've gone from fishing 2 really, really good boilies. You've applied them exactly the same. That for me, the change doesn't really make a difference in that. Like you're not going to trigger a feeding response because you've applied a different flavour boilie. And I always like to smile to myself when people at a lake and someone says, "Yeah, well, I've not been catching on whatever scope at squid, so I'm going to try manila or sticky or krill or something like that." It's like you've not really changed anything there. Like you've just gone from fishing with one good boilie to another good boilie. Like if you start fishing a load of flake maybe, or if you start fishing a load of particle, then that's a change. But you've not made a change just choosing between really good bait. Obviously, if you're fishing with a bait Henry's rolled, that's a different going up to scope at squid. But those big companies, they all make really good bait, so it's not really much of a difference for me. So that's my thoughts on baits, and that's pretty much all it ends. And the rest of it is just, Max, going to have some scope at squid, please. Yeah, that's
Please,
it.
Max,
Yeah, yeah. That's basically it.
So you said there about France. You said a bit about working in France with regards to at the lake and doing a bit of fishing when you weren't working. At this period of time, I'm guessing that you're still in some form of schooling. You're doing that during the summer. So
summer or like half term, things like that.
Yeah. So how did your sort of schooling go in terms of, obviously you were at international school, you said, at Switzerland. Did you go to uni after that, or did you have a bit of time just living the dream in Europe?
No, so I was going to actually take a year out and do a gap year working at this lake in France. I remember in my last year at school. So I didn't do A level. I did something called the International Baccalaureate. Very, very fancy.
Yeah.
You taught about it, didn't you?
Yeah.
At your school, yeah. So you know it, yeah. And you got to do the CAS, community and service stuff.
I do indeed.
So obviously, I'm going to try and make my CAS thing as fun as possible for me. Yeah. I'm going to host a charity fishing match at this, in France. Basically, sell a load of tickets to people to basically say, "Come over to France." It's you basically paying the normal price, raise money for charity. CAS loved it, and I got to go fishing. I remember I've ruined my Facebook because I added anyone on Facebook who had a carp in their profile picture, so I could send them an invite to this charity event. And now my Facebook is just full of like 3,000 friends who half of them I have no idea who they are.
That is rogue social media.
That is early social media day usage there. That is like the wild west of social media, when there was just like you can just try anything and see if it works. And I sold it all. I sold all the tickets. It was a success, but basically, Lee had a falling out with his parents who also owned it, and it was all up in the air, and they were trying to sell it, and it was all just, it wasn't feeling the same. I was feeling like it wasn't how I remembered it, and you don't know who the new owners were, if they were going to be as sound as Lee was, or if they were going to be like, just sort of, great, we've got this kid to do cheap labour for a year, just like, just let this make the most of it, basically. So I was just like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go straight to uni. And so I applied to uni, went to the University of Kent. As Dan said in his podcast, when you go to uni, fishing does take a bit of a backseat. When I'd come back home and everything, I would still go fishing. I remember
home Switzerland or home
Switzerland until the end of second year, and then home Leicester, where my parents moved to in my last year.
Greatest place on the planet.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, during the second year at uni was actually my last trip to this lake in France, and I remember leaving there knowing that would be my last time there. What happened was it was actually perfect time. I went in May, just after my exams, and a good friend of mine, Uwe, who owns a bait company did own a bait company in the UK, Successful Baits, which are a big German company, but he was the distributor in the UK. Actually met him through the charity match, became good friends with him, really, really sound guy. And he was going back, and he was like, well, I was in Canterbury. You basically drive past it. He's like, if you want to come, I'll pick you up. We'll sort it all out. So I went with him. I'd just broken, like 2 2 weeks before I'd broken up with my long-term girlfriend. I remember being like all mopey and like as you are, and I was just like, oh, fishing would be perfect right now. I remember getting there, picking the swim, and just doing what I'd always done there and catching quite a few. I remember I wanted to catch a big common when I went that trip, and I caught, because my PB common at the time was 31, I remember catching a 37 and a 35 or something, and I caught another 40-pound mirror, and
nice.
it was really fun. It was perfect timing because, like I said, I was all mopey because of things. I needed like a little fishing fix, just getting away from everything and just not worrying about uni, just going fishing. So it's perfect timing. But I remember like everything, it was so predictable what I was doing. I was like, right, I know that at this point I'm going to get bites. And whereas before, when I'd done it in the summer, like I said before, when I knew I'd get these bites at this time, it was like cracked it, job done. It was just like, right, well, okay, I've got to get my rod in this channel here, these many baits around it, and that will go at some point within the next 4 hours. And the fish weren't really doing anything for me then. Like, yeah, they were big, but like I said, they were just big, fat, pale French fish. And I just kind of, although it was a great trip and I really enjoyed it, I really needed it. It was a trip that, as we left, I was like, there's more out there in fishing, and I think that's me done with this French lake. And yeah, it is. I've not gone back since. I still see what they're up to on Facebook and maybe I will go back one day. But yeah, I remember coming away thinking, yeah, that's that done, that lake. And it was a great lake, really good. And so uni, that was probably one of the big trips. I remember going to Italy, like I said earlier, as well. At that point, again, I was still convincing my dad to go places because I didn't learn to drive until after uni, because in Switzerland there is no need whatsoever to learn to drive. I lived halfway up a mountain in a tiny little village, and I had buses running from the town until 3 a.m. every half hour. There was no need to, like...
That's a dream, isn't it, transport-wise?
Yeah. Like, to learn to get your driver's license is like 10 grand, something like that.
10 grand?
10 grand. Switzerland is expensive, and there's no need for it. Like, I had to get the bus and the train to school every day. So I have a travel pass, so you get free travel in the canton, in the county. And I was just like, why do I need? If I drive and I go out, I can't drink, so I've got to drive back, or I can just get the bus that left outside my house and went straight down to the bar, get battered with my mates, and go back at 3 a.m. Like, why would I want to drive? So I never learnt to drive. So even at uni, I never learnt to drive at uni either, because that's the last thing you really bothered about doing is learning to drive when you're at uni. I remember having a few lessons and stuff, but never passed it until after uni. So when I was coming back, I was still convinced my dad, like, oh, let's go on a 4 or 5 day fishing trip. And he was, my dad was, like I said, he's not an angler, but I think he liked them. He did really enjoy them. So we'd go and do that. And he just liked a little holiday, really. Like, he didn't have to worry about anything. We used to take it turns for runs.
That's nice, though.
It was really nice. Time. Yeah, it was great. Really, really enjoy it.
What about your brother? Did he get involved in any of those?
He did a little bit, not too much. I remember one, he's really into like outdoor survival, but not the fishing so much. I remember one time, so when we'd go on these trips, my brother would go, my dad and my brother would go together. I'd get everything out for them, sort everything for them, tie all the rigs, but then I'd leave them and I'd go my own swim. Because again, going back to that thing when everything needs to, like when I'm fishing, for me, a lot of time everything needs to be perfect. I don't want my 2 noddies, my dad and my brother, coming and crashing and making a load of noise. Like, you go in your swim and do your thing. I'll get everything sorted for you, but my fishing needs to be my fishing. So my dad and my brother were on one lake and I was on the other. And like I said, my brother's really into this outdoor stuff, and he brought a hammock, and he set a hammock up a little bit far back there was like a little forest, and he went to sleep with his headphones on, and my dad had a run in the night, played a 30-pounder. At the same time, the other rod going off, and he's apparently screaming for my brother, going, Jack, wake up, you got to play this fish. I've got a fish on, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Somehow my dad landed both fish, eventually comes around, gets me, and I take photos for him. But I've still got this voice message on my phone. No, I don't have this. I wish I still had this voice message on my phone, where he's rang me going, as he's playing one, and it's like, Henry, I'm into 2 fish at the moment. Your brother's not waking up. I don't know what to do. I need your help. Please come round now. Because for some reason, my phone didn't wake me up or something. That is just the best voice message ever. But so my dad would come on these trips with me. Like I said, we went to Italy one time, and we went to, where else did we go? I think we're still going to France. We went to France the first year I was at uni. Then I went to France again by myself. And then that summer we went to Italy. And then, so I was doing like, it was almost, I would go and do like a week trip each year, or maybe 2 1-week trips when I was at uni, when I was not at uni. So fishing would really take a back seat, but I was still doing it, still interested in it. I remember convincing all my housemates at uni to watch Eurobanks 4 with me once, going, no, we're all sitting down tonight watching Eurobanks 4. And they loved it, to be fair. They really liked it.
I remember,
what
did they say?
They were like, that wasn't as shit as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I was like, no, come on, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to watch it. It's great. Honestly, I don't think they all did. I think there's like 1 or 2. They're like, oh, okay, whatever. We put it on there, and they just turned to me after and went, you know what? That was all right. I actually didn't think that was too bad. So that, like, I still had my mind on fishing a little bit, but it's not your first priority when you're at uni at all.
What was your first priority at uni, Henry?
Oh, yeah.
What was it?
Loads of stuff, loads of different stuff, and fishing was not one of them. Put it like that.
That is a very PC vague answer.
Yeah.
What course did you do?
Economics. Yeah, absolutely nothing to do with fishing or what I do now as a job. Basically, I took it because when I was at school doing the IB, you can do economics, and I was good at it. I enjoyed it. I found it interesting. Just thought that you get a lot of job opportunities doing this when you graduate. And I took that, went to Kent, graduated, came out. And when I came out, I was like, right, I'm going to work for 6 months, save up a load of money. And then for 6 months, I'm going to go traveling around Europe carp fishing. I'm going to, like, with the money I save, I'm going to buy a van, convert it, go around and do that. And then when I come back, I'm going to go and do a master's degree in Rotterdam, Erasmus University in Rotterdam. So that was my plan at this point.
Good plan.
Yeah, good plan. And I remember I started working for 3 months. Started working for my uncle's tech company, and I was working like an installer, like driving over all the country installing these Samsung retail displays. I hated it. I really, really, really hated it. Like, it paid pretty well, and it wasn't hard work, but I just woke in the morning like, I can't think of anything worse to do today than go and do that. Like, I really, really hate it. And it really made me think, like, what I do as a job full time, I'm going to need to love, because I was still like half considering, like, oh, I could work in like the city or work as a banker or something, or a job that I'm going to hate, but with my degree, I can do it and I could get paid really well. But I was just like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I need to do something I love. And at my last year at uni, I was really getting into development economics, which is like economics and basically less developed countries, how they can increase their development, how they can increase their economy. I was really getting into that. I was thinking, I want to do something like that, because it may not pay as well as going and being working at whatever, trying to get work as an investor or whatever like that. But I'll enjoy it, because I do enjoy that side of economics, and I think I'd get a lot out of it. So
you make a big difference, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. So I was thinking, like, that's what I'm going to study development economics in my master's at Rotterdam, and then that's what I'm going to look into. Like, I was looking at applying for internships with like the UN in where I was looking at Morocco and Uzbekistan. Those are the two I was really trying to get internships for. Some
good carp fishing in Morocco.
Yeah, there is. There definitely is. So that's what my sort of plan was. And then I remember 3 months into my uncle's job. If he listens to this, he probably won't. He's probably going to rip into me a little bit, but because I was so thankful he gave me the job that I could do it, but like, I really did not like it at all. 3 months in, I saw the job advertised at Nash, and I was thinking, like, yeah, like, I would absolutely love to do that. I think I can do it. Social media stuff, like.
Was it coordinator role? Was it
assistant?
So
it was, right. To be honest, it was more like customer service stuff with a little bit of social media stuff in the side. And Uber, I mentioned earlier, was Successful Bait. I was running their social media accounts, so I had a little bit of an experience. I said economics doesn't really help too much, but it does help with sort of data analysis and trends, which is what Alf absolutely loves, data analysis and stuff like that. So I didn't know that at the time, but I thought I'll apply for it and see what happens. Applied for it. Didn't hear anything for weeks, like 7-8 weeks. It said, if you don't hear from us in 3 weeks, assume you've not got the job. So I assumed I'd not got the job. And then I remember Alf ringing me. It was It's on my birthday, actually. I think I talked about this first podcast, so I'll try and do it quickly. Alf rang me. Do you want an interview? Yep. I went down, had the interview. Thought it went quite well. For that interview, I had to drive from Leeds down to Essex. I'd done a night shift in Leeds, drove down to Essex, did the interview. Then after the interview, I thought it went all right. I was a little bit nervous. It's like one of my first proper interviews ever.
Was it just with Alf?
And Alf and Alan, yeah. I went to Alan and asked him. So the school I went to was called the International School of Zug and Lausanne. Zug's a town in Switzerland. I was at Al reading my CV and going, "What's a Zug?" It's not an animal. It's a place. I always remember that. That's the first thing Alan ever said. He's like, "Hello, brav," and then you sit down doing the interview, and then Alf's talking, doing it all, and then I think Alf just turned to Alan and went, "You got any questions?" And he just went, "Yeah, what's a Zug?" That's the first thing that Alan really ever said to me.
Brilliant.
But then after that interview, I just remember sleeping in the Maze Field or something, Basildon Way. Maybe you drive past it on your way in. There's like a McDonald's and a KFC. And
I know.
I remember sleeping in the car park there for a couple of hours, because I had to drive up to Liverpool to get a ferry over to Ireland, to then go work in Ireland for a couple of days. I remember driving down to Ireland. There was some massive hold-up which involved me sitting in a car park in Ireland for 5 hours waiting for something to be sent over via email, and it took ages. And halfway through sitting through that, Alf rang me and said, "Do you want the job?" I was like, "Absolutely, 100%.
Get me out of there."
100%. And then here we are.
How was that? How was coming into Nash as work? Did you think it would be, or it would be how you thought it would be? Do you think it would be a long-term career? What was your
honestly?
Sketch? Yeah, go on.
I thought I was still going to go to Rotterdam for my masters. Yeah. I thought I was going to go in, enjoy the work, not go on the 6 months traveling around Europe, but this was the good part of it anyway. Like, I still get my fish in, still all that. Just go in and see what it's like. I had no expectations. I didn't even understand, I didn't really understand the UK carp fishing scene at all, really, because, like I said, I grew up in Switzerland. I'd never really fished day tickets. I'd never had mates who fished. I was a bit naive to I just didn't really get UK carp fishing, I don't think. So I didn't really know what to expect. I just went in with an open mind and just try my best, which is, I think all you can do in a lot of situations. So I did that, went down, and just really enjoyed it. From everyone here's so sound. Everyone's doing something they love. Everyone wants to get the best out of their work. Like, it's a great environment to work in. Everyone's passionate about it. Just really, really loved it. Really loved it. It was. I went in with no expectations. Basically, I went in thinking I'm going to enjoy this. I did enjoy it, and it was. It was great. Yeah.
Essentially, what you're saying there is world economics loss is Nash Tackle's game. Right?
I wouldn't quite go that far, but it is. Some of my mates, because I did try my last year. I played rugby quite seriously and then got a load of injuries, and I realised in my last year at uni that I wasn't going to play any rugby at all. Like, my injuries were too bad to play.
What did you injure? Knees?
Knees are knackered. So I was like, right, I was in my second year. You know what? First year at uni doesn't count. You just got to pass it. Second year, I got just under a first. So first year, I was like, right, I'm going to try and get first then. I've literally got nothing else to do other than go to uni and get battered as many nights a week as possible. So that uni part, I'm going to put a bit of effort in. I really got into it. Like I said, I really got into that development side of things, and all my mates were just, I was quite hard working in the academic side of things, and now they just can't believe that I've not gone down that route and that I'm working for a fishing company. And it's, I was not I wouldn't, if someone had said to me in my last year at uni that this is what we're doing now, I would not have believed them. No way. Not at all.
But you love it.
I do love it.
You've got to love it.
Yeah. I do absolutely love it.
In terms of working for Nash, what was it like for you meeting Nashy, your dealings with Nashy, Alan the same, and other characters that are about?
I'm trying to think who I knew before I even joined. I think I definitely knew Tommy, because I remember walking past Tommy in the car park when I left, and him just like, "You right, mate?" And just thinking, I've seen him on TV. Seen him on
It's
YouTube.
him from the TV.
It's Tom Foreman. So I knew who Tommy was. I knew who Blair was. Obviously, I knew what Ollie was. But I knew who Nashy was, but because I think I was a little bit late to the generation, it wasn't so much like oh my God, it's Kevin Nash, the carp angler. It was more like, oh, it's Kevin Nash, and like massively, I know what he's about, but I've never seen him in anything, so you don't really get that same like feel as you did with Alan, I guess.
Yeah.
But they were all so sound. I mean, Kev especially. Yeah. I remember being in here a few months down the line and sort of hearing stories about Kev. Dan talks about in the podcast about Kev can be a bit of a tyrant, and thinking like, he's not at all. Like, I don't know where that's come from. Although, to be fair, he did lay into me once in my first couple of months here.
Go on. I like this.
Basically, I'd fucked up with some returns. Someone had messaged in, and I'd fucked up with my response. And I just remember going in for a social media meeting with me, Alfie. It was my first ever like meeting with someone besides Alfie, Alan and Kev. And Kev, just before we start, Henry, this has been brought to my attention. What's going on with it? Like, what's happening? And basically, I had to read through this email chain, and I can't remember getting to the bit where I'd fucked up, and him just proper laying.
What did he go for?
He was just like, "What the fuck are you doing there? Then what the fuck?" He's like, "You could put the whole company liability, blah blah blah." Just going proper like going in. I'm just sitting there being shouted at by like.
Yeah, what did you do? Sorry.
Yeah, just like. Not really saying much, just sort of taking it a little bit and being like, because I don't remember the last time someone had shouted at me like that at all. Especially like someone like a lot shorter and smaller than me. Like if they just never happened to me, and I'm just kind of like a bit bewildered. Like, what's going on? Like this never happens. Like, and then thinking, like, oh my God, because I was getting on really well with Kevin. In the early days, like he was helping me loads of my fishing. I had loads of questions, and he wasn't just fuck off, Henry. You know, he was sit down, help me out with a lot. Really, really, like he wasn't just. I know at some companies like the boss is almost like this unreachable person. He was so sound and would like always have time for you. And I mean, even to this day, you just sit down, and some days it's like you sat there for like an hour, 2 hours, and you're just talking about your fishing. And Kev's really, really interested. So. I was just thinking like, oh no, I've lost that. Like, he's just laid into me, and that's it. It's over. Like, I've ruined it. Yeah. And the next day, it's like nothing happened. He was just like, you can tell why he's been successful in business. But like, I think everyone says that about him, because you do need to be ruthless sometimes, but it's not personal at all. And that was what it was. It was like once he'd made it clear to me not to make that mistake again, which I haven't yet, and I don't think I will. Then it was like, yeah, okay, that's it. We move on. And yeah. So,
And job-wise, when you first came in, obviously it was a lot of responses, dealing with sort of public via social, etc. How did you find all that? Because that is different from economics.
Yeah, I'd say the actual job and the responsibilities I found quite easy, and the more creative stuff, and especially like the camera side things that I'd never been dealt with before, like. Just the photography things, that was something that I really took on myself to learn and try and understand as best I could. Not saying that I'm a good photographer at all now, but being able to look at a picture and knowing if it's a good picture or not, basically. For social media anyway, at least. I know Ollie listened to this. You don't know we always have arguments about going like, yeah, it's a great picture, but it's not a good picture for social media. And we'll always have arguments about that. So knowing what a good picture for social media was, and like that more creative side of things, I did have to learn a little bit, but the actual job roles I didn't find too tasking. And then it was more learning about the carp fishing scene. That was what I was really loving, and knowing more about the industry as a whole. But it also meant I had a lot of time for fishing, and everyone was more than happy to, if you've done your job and it's 2 and you want to go do work overnight, no one's going to stop you. Go do it. Yeah, definitely. Go do it. And
so talk us through your fishing then. So Nash times, obviously, you've got your work, but you're in a position whereby, are you living in Leicester now?
No, so I moved down to Southend.
So you're in Southend. So you're not too far away at all from...
No, like 20, 30 minutes. Yeah. So that first winter, I dabbled a little bit on a park lake called Priory Park, which is good winter water. Good old Priory. Oh, yeah. That's story from the Christmas
podcast. If you want to know what Henry
goes on at Priory Park.
The van's rocking, don't come knocking. Priory Park.
Oh God, my mum listen
Sorry,
to that.
she's already heard it. So,
Yeah.
but I do apologise.
Yeah, thanks, Alf, for telling that story. Anyway, so I fished there a little bit. Didn't do too well. Like, it's pressured. It's winter still. I caught a couple. I caught the biggest common in there on my first session down there.
That's pretty good, mate.
Yeah, but then I went on like 7 night blank and then caught like a 20-pound mirror and then nothing and then caught a couple of tench and that like over like 12, 13 nights I think I caught 3 carp or something. So it was all right, but it wasn't like groundbreaking or anything. And then it's like, right, spring's coming round, and then that went on to my first campaign, which I was going to talk about, but I've realised in my first podcast I've covered it in a lot of detail. So I won't go into too depth, but basically I really, really enjoyed it. It was, it was similar to, aspects of it were similar to what I loved about Switzerland, about how it was out the way, do what you want. This was like a forgotten about club lake that no one fished, and I could just do what I wanted there. And I would have done the whole year there. But very quickly, I caught the lake stock, including the 2 fish. Well, I caught the fish again. I caught big common first night again.
Check you out.
Caught the big common the first night, and then I caught the big mirror that was like my target fish, my first ever target fish. I caught that after about like 10, 12 nights. So like that was by middle of May, that campaign was done, and it's like, okay, what next?
Oh, it's Nash's Terriern. He's back.
No way.
Tail's back.
No way near. As we're going to go on more, like you'll realise no way, and that was probably just a bit of a fluky first campaign that kicked off well, and then since then it's not been like that at all.
You peaked too early, basically, is what you're saying.
Big time. Yeah, big time. Definitely. So after that, it was like, right, okay, I've got this club ticket. I originally bought it for this other lake that Wilson had told me was a Garan for floater fishing. I love my floater fishing. So I was like, right, okay, I'll get this one. That's what I'll get it for. I got sidetracked by this first lake. Now it's time to put time in this one. And it was chalk and cheese compared to the other lake. It was a horrible looking lake. It had an amazing stock of carp, both size and look wise. I think it's one of the most underrated carp stock in Essex. Like, it's
really, what are we talking?
Probably like, I think it's probably like 150 to 200 fish. Really good head of 20s, really good head of 30s, 2 40-pounders.
How big's the lake?
4 acres.
Oh,
but like real lookers, proper nice.
Scaly dark things.
Scaly dark things.
Get
for
me
days.
on the old overnighter when they're
but
out
like
back.
as busy club water, it was like a big irrigation res. Everyone see. I remember so many times. Whenever I was playing a fish there, I'd look up and someone would be looking at me with binoculars. Like that part of it, oh, I hated so much. Like
Essex is like that, though, isn't it? There's so many irrigation open, like,
and just the number of carp anglers over here. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to know about, if you want to be thrown in the deep end for UK fishing, you go to Essex because there's loads of carp anglers. There's not many big lakes. Fish are very pressured. There's a lot. Not only is there a lot of carp anglers, there's a lot of very good carp anglers as well. So it's
you need to come up north, boy. You spoiled down here. Everywhere there's a puddle, there's a 40-pound.
yeah,
mate.
but they don't. Those carp I was watching swim around in Switzerland.
Yeah.
The carp in Essex, they don't behave like that at all. So the experience I had from that was very difficult to use there because, like, well, if I've just seen that carp crash there and it's moving in this direction, it's looking, then it will eat that bait there. No, it will not eat that bait there because it is shit scared, because last time it did that, it got a hook in its face and mate held it up for a photo for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
pressured.
They're pressured.
Yeah.
And but again, like it was a completely new style of fishing, and there was times when I was catching there, I enjoyed it, but when I wasn't catching there, I really didn't like it. I hated it.
How did you catch him then?
So I very quickly realised that, and which was really alarming to me, was that it was like, Tommy talks about this in his podcast, and I was like, that's exactly like the lake it was for me when he talks about Kingy, that mate, he gets to his swim, finds a spot, a couple of kilos over the top, blanks, goes home. As he's leaving, next mate he comes in, exactly same process. I'm just thinking, I remember, like Tommy did, I'm just thinking, there's just piles of bait all over the place here. The carp are never going to eat these new piles of bait because they're the dangerous ones. They're just going to be going around picking off like the mold mouthful on old beds of bait. I originally thought I was going to catch on floaters there, but I soon found out that they've been so hammered on floaters the 2 years before that I caught a couple. I caught my floater PB there, which only 27 pounds. But it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. So I was like, right, okay, how am I going to catch them then? I'm not going to catch my floaters like I thought. What am I going to do? And I started catching a few. I didn't tear it apart at all, but I was catching fairly consistently, just solid bags, because I'm just thinking, I remember my thinking was, they're just picking mouthfuls of these old beds of bait. Mate, he's casting out, he's fishing over a load of bait, and he might put a rod out on a little PVA bag. Like, if I just see one show, move around solid bags, and you might get that mouthful feeding response, and hope you get by. I did get like I said, I didn't tear apart. I caught a few. I caught a couple of decent 20s, up to, I think it was like 28, 29, caught like maybe 4 or 5 like that. But because I wasn't really so into it, as I wasn't I wasn't giving it, I didn't feel like I was giving it all my fishing when I was there, but I wasn't giving it all my time and my attention like I should be. I've actually rejoined this place for this year because you'll smash them up on the zigs there, and I never fished zigs back then. Now I'm very, very confident on the zigs, so I've joined it again just because, like I said, the stock there is incredible, and I just think you do well on the zigs there. So I've joined it again. I might not be able to get a night ticket on it, so it might just be days I can fish it. But there's fish in there that you want in your album 100%, and
you put up with the surrounds.
Yeah, you put up with it, and it's a skill, isn't it? Like, being able to catch fish in that situation with those parameters, that is a big skill in your angling, especially for UK anglers. Like, you need to be able to do that.
100%. Yeah.
Like that.
It's very rare you're going to stumble across that Swiss gem.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you want to fish in England, that's what you got to put up with. If you want to fish for big fish in England as well, that's what you got to put up with. Tommy talks about it in his he did that session at the church when he caught a couple, talking about edges and what they're saying about 90% of the fish caught by 10% of anglers. So if you can be in that 10%, and it's by doing those little things differently and just having all those, accumulating loads of little percentages, then you will be in that 10% catching the 90%. And I want to be in that 10%. So I've got to put myself in that situation where I'm going to learn to do that more than I can't just keep relying on finding these little gems everywhere and fishing like that, because it's great and you catch fish, but it won't make you a better angler. And that's what I've always been trying to do, is put yourself in a situation. And that's what Kev, as soon as I joined, sort of like made me realize that you need to put yourself in situations where you're going to be a better angler. Just because you're catching doesn't mean you're getting it better as an angler. Like, at the first campaign leg, I learned quite a lot about pre-bait in there, but the actual technical stuff, I didn't get a better angler at all, because, like I said, it was quite hidden and pressured. I was pre-baiting. It was just a case of when. But whereas at the next leg, it was, even in that short time, I could feel myself adding a few strings to my bow, and that's what all it is in angling, isn't it? Getting as many strings as possible. So, fished there, caught a few nice ones, real nice ones. Like I said, didn't make much of a dent in the stock at all. I probably did like 15 nights. Probably had the same number of carp. Like 8 of them were good uns. The rest, there was a lot of like cricketback commentator. It was no means a massive fail, but it was no means a huge success either.
Did you feel the pressure to catch because of being involved with Nash or not?
Yeah, a little bit, I guess, but not loads. I mean, when I joined during this year, a few people said to me, "Oh, you fall out of love with fishing because of it." Because when you work in the industry, you hear about it all the time. People work in the industry and they just don't really go fishing at all now. They fall out of love with it. And for me, I love fishing so much that I never want that to happen. Yeah. So I try as much as I can to not let other people and other things affect it too much, and always be thinking like you're fishing, like always be that kid who just wants to just enjoy it. So there was pressure there. I tried to not let it get to me too much, but of course there is that pressure there. But it wasn't like you're going to lose your job if you don't catch a 20-pounder tonight. Like, no one really cared at all. No one gave a shit. Like, no one really gives a shit about anyone's captures, really, do they? Besides a few, like, the person who cares about the catching the most is the person who catches it. Like, yeah. No one really cares about anyone else's angling. Like, not saying like that, but like if you like Alfie's caught a 38-pounder, I'm like, yes, Alf, well done, man. Like, that's a sick carp. And looking at it going, yeah, that's a really nice one. But he's the one who cares about that the most. Like, it's the same with everything. You're not, once you've seen it, like, you're not the person who's reliving that moment and going, oh, that was amazing. So yeah, I always thought about that. It's like, no one cares about this more than you, Henry. So don't let other people and pressure from other people really affect you. And yeah, I think I hope I'm always thinking like that and never get to the point where, I've got to go fishing to catch this fish tonight for my Instagram or for whatever, or to keep my job. Like, I hope I never get down there, because that's when you fall out of love with it.
Yeah.
And I never want to fall out of love with it.
I don't think you will, mate.
I hope so.
You're key. That's the key. From that campaign, was it another campaign, or was it a bit of flitting around?
It was a lot of flitting around. They call me, like, there's a joke in the office where they go, "Oh, great, Henry, another campaign," because I'm always like flitting around other things. And someone tells me, like, that sounds good. I'll go to a few nights. I'll be like, right, I'm going to catch the target fish from there, and then it's like, before I know, I'm on to the next one, because I'm always trying to find like a home, I guess. That's what you always need when you're really successful. You see it, like the real good anglers talking about this in their podcasts, whether it's this one or like a quarter one. Like, it's like you've got a home and you're in tune with it, and that's what you're always like searching for. And the Club Lake wasn't really like that for me. Like, I did enjoy like when I was catching there, I did enjoy it. I learned a lot, but it wasn't like a home really. You hear people describing, you need to find. I kind of knew I didn't have that, so it came to sort of autumn time, and I'm terrible for this. That I can catch them in spring and summer when they're easy and you can just set traps and they're muggy. But autumn, when you need something going and they're pressured, I've never had anything going. This year, I say this every year, this year is going to be the year that changes. But it's always like, when it comes to autumn, things slow down. I've not got anything going. I've just been trying to nick bites here and there, and autumn like peters out. I was kind of aware that this was happening at the Club Lake, and I hadn't got anything going, and it was getting to that time. So I thought, I'll try somewhere else. I bought a 10-night ticket for Chigborough, which is
good
the
old
fishery
Chigborough
nearby. And at Chigborough, there's a lake at the back, Scraley, that no one really fishes. And I think I had like 7 nights left of this 10-night ticket. And I thought, right, I'm going to do like a little mini autumn campaign on this Chigborough Lake. Alan had caught a mental, like, purple linear from there. That was like, that would be nice to catch that. It wasn't like I'm going to catch that one, but like, there's fish like that in there, so it's worth it. Again, it's left alone a little bit because it's the furthest walk. Although there's really nice fish in there, they're not the biggest than compared to the other lakes on site. So people tend to fish the other lakes more because A, the convenience, and B, the bigger fish. I thought, I'll have a go on there. So I went there. Serious snag fishing, like, they've just left it, the people who own it, and everything's overgrown, and you're like fishing next to these snags where the carp live, and they get in them because, like I said, there's not many people walking around it, so they really, as soon as they know someone's there, they're in those snags and they're hiding. So it's fishing tight to those snags. But yeah, I had a nice little autumn on there. Caught, lost a few in the snags. I'm sure I lost a decent one, like one of the real upper 20s that could be touching 30. Like, it was just on. And I remember seeing a big one there that day that I got this bite, screamer, just holding on for ages. It coming out, going back in, coming back out, going back in, coming back out, going back in, and then it locking up eventually, and then it just all coming back to me as the hook pinged out, and just thinking like you never know. It's always, you go, yeah, that was a 35 pounder, 100%. Like, definitely. Did you see it? Nah. I just had it on for 2 minutes, for 20 seconds. But I remember thinking like, that could have been a good one. But I lost a few like that. But I did land a few.
Had you done much snag fishing before?
Nah.
So that was all really a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah, exactly. And this is, again, going to like putting yourself in situations you're not familiar with to learn more and get better. Like, I could have just gone to a clay bowl day ticket and just chucked out anywhere, but I was like, nah, you need to do something a little bit different that you're going to learn from, and that was one of them. And yeah, it was a case of, right, you can't fish with 12-pound line anymore, you need 20-pound line. Okay, like, you need to use a couple of meters of Klingon tubing. It's no more little dainty rigs. Like, you need a size 4 claw, like
beef up.
It's going to, those first 10-20 seconds, you need to hold on a little bit. And it was really enjoyed it, to be honest, because I was like I said, at 7, I probably did like 7 nights over the course of 3 weeks. Could keep bait going in. I know that no one was really going down there. I was fishing to a snag that I could see them moving in and out of, and then I was fishing for them from the opposite bank. So again, it was like nice watching them and everything. So I did really enjoy that, and had them to 27 pound, but they're all like proper dark commons.
They're really nice,
they're really
fish,
nice, especially in that Scraley, the back lake. They're really nice. So yeah, that was how I sort of finished the year, and then sort of things petered out around winter time, basically.
What about influence in terms of bait, rigs? Did you draw a lot of experience from, because obviously Alan, Alf, Dan, the likes of go to Chigborough a fair bit, mate. So
yeah, it wasn't so much this is what they use at Chigborough, so this will work. The thing that I've found is when you're in the environment that we're in with our work, and we're very lucky to be in, you're surrounded, you're living and breathing it, and you're surrounded by people who are living and breathing it also, and also at a very high level. So just by the conversations, not even that I've got to be part of, like the amount of times I sit opposite Alfie and Tom, the times I've heard them have a conversation, I'm just sat there working, I just think, that's a good point, I'm going to take that on board. And so it wasn't so much people showing me, because I didn't really fish with, I've been on you go on a few socials, but all the boys here, their personal fishing is the personal fishing. No one really does too much together for that. So it's not like I'd gone out and Alan had showed me this wonder rig and I was like, I'm going to use that now. It was more just being part of conversations in the office, and you just think, yeah, I'm going to take that on board and use that in my own angling. And I'm like, that's a good point, I can start using that now. So yeah, it was more of not so much hands-on influence. It's more now that you're part of this environment, you've got to be like a sponge and just take it all on board. And I did my very best to do that, and I found myself progressing quite quickly. Like I look at myself at the start of that year when I was fishing Priory Park, and at the end of the year when I was like finishing on Chigborough, and it was I just think, wow, like what I learned in that time period, if I wasn't working here, it would have taken me like 10, 15 years to take all that on board. So yeah, it's massively lucky in that aspect that you're in that situation, that you have access to that knowledge, and that you can.
I find it quite interesting. You've gone like the other way, haven't you? You've gone like a majority of people have sort of cut their teeth on UK scene being quite pressured, and they go over to Europe, and you're like, wow, carp behave like carp over here or whatever. Whereas you've come from that and then sort of had to learn the intricacies of pressured carp and whatever else in quite a short period of time, like you said, realistically.
Yeah.
But you've done well at it.
I've tried my better. Like I say, I've never, besides the first campaign in the UK, I've never, that first year, I never at any point felt like I've cracked it here.
Yeah.
This is it. Like, this is how you do it. I felt like I was nicking bites. I felt like I was learning and getting better, but I never felt like, mission accomplished. I never got that vibe like I did at the first lake. So the winter came around, I was like planning what I'm doing ahead, like what I want for the year. And I was like, okay, I want to catch a UK 40. Like that's the aim now. That's the big boy leagues. That's what I'm after. So I signed up for a different club nearby. Thought I was going to target this one lake, and started fishing it quite early, sort of mid-February time, and did between then and that first lockdown. So what was it, like a month? Probably did like 15 nights. Did a lot where I was going like every other day, doing a work overnighter, and really going for it. Barney, the new videographer who barely carp fished before, joined me on this as well. Mental when I think about it now, because it's a hard lake. Like, it's a real hard lake, busy lake in Essex. A lot of good anglers fishing it. Very weedy. Bovey 2, I could say it was Bovey 2. I was trying to catch the big common in there. And I was enjoying it. I was trying to like, feeling like, this is like a bit of a circuit water for the area. Like, this is proper carp fishing. Like, I've been working at Nash for a year now. Like, I'm earning my stripes. I'm the boy. Yeah, I'm earning my stripes. Yeah, I'll catch this by spring, and then we'll be on to the next one. And it was, I just remember those work overnighters with Barn. It was like, there's full of tench. It was just tench after tench after tench. I remember one night, it was something like between 6 when I got the rods out and midnight, I think caught something like 10 tench, and I was like, I've got work in the morning. Like,
punish him.
So it was getting hard, and then just as it was starting to wake up around early March, I remember I had one session of work overnight between I had like 4 tench. Then I had my first carp from there.
Cool.
It was this is my first time ever like fishing on a spot in amongst the weed where I'm spotting out over the top, like proper wrapping up and everything. That's when I was really like, this is carp angling UK style. Like, this is it. And it was like a stock. It was like £18, but I was like, yes, result. And then
Tom Maker, Tom Maker,
I wish, Jesus. And then me and Barn was there that night as well, and we had to film. We had to film an interview piece. I'd done my 24. We had to film an interview piece for it, and we were like, "Oh, we can film it at Bovey, and we can do the morning there." And I caught one on a zig that morning as well. So I caught 2 carp in like 12 hours, and that's when I was like, cracked it,
Done.
easy.
Where's that biggin?
Slate grey will be in my hands within a couple of months. I actually took a couple of days off work and did a 4-night session after that, just before lockdown, and blanked. And I was like, I've not cracked it. I've not cracked it at all. This is going to be harder than I thought. And then we went to lockdown, where there was no fishing for like a month? That first month,
Yeah, it was
maybe
a bit of time,
longer.
wasn't it? I remember.
It was a bit of time. I was like, do I want to go back to Bovey? Like, was I enjoying it? And I took a step back. I was going, I don't think I really was. Like, it was way too much pressure. Like, it just wasn't for me. And the more I'd learned about the stock, I thought that I went there to catch the slate grey, the big common, and I thought there'd be like a lot of nice backup fish, but there wasn't really. And I was like, it's a lot to stick out for that big one. I'm not a bounty hunter angler at all. It's a lot to stick out for that one fish. Do I really have that burning desire that I need to catch it? No. Will I be happy with the fish catch along the way? Like, there's like 4 or 5 like real nice ones there that you'd want to catch, but other than that, you're catching a lot of tension. You're catching a lot of cricketback commons. And as much as I love a cricketback common, I was like, there's other places I can catch cricketback common. So this is when there was a lot of flitting around. I remember when we could fish again. At this point, I moved back up to Leicester. So as lockdown started, I was like, right, I'm going to go up to Leicester. My sister just finished uni. I was like, I'm not going to get this chance again to like live with my parents and live with my sister, so I'll do it. And when I was up there, I realised, I work in social media, I can do everything I need to do. I don't need to be in the office. As everyone realised, I think you can do a lot of home working. So I was like, I'm going to stay up here, and then when I need to come down to the office, I'll come down to the office, and if I need to stay down here a couple of nights, whatever, I'll just whack a bed chair up, Alan Blair style in the warehouse, and just I'm perfectly happy to do that. In the summer and spring and autumn, I can do overnight at some places. Like, I'll just do it like that. So I started looking for lakes sort of up Leicester way. I remember one morning I found this, because again I wanted to find like one of these hidden gems. It was a lot of, right, there's blue on the map there, set a little route. This was like, if I had a free day, this is what I'd do. Make a little route that would have like 10 lakes in, go check them out. Think, is there carp in there? If there is, then do a night. And I remember getting to this one where it looked like there could be carp in there. I'd got the rods out, went in, and then it was just that night where it was I remember it being so mild, like 16, 17 degrees at night, just thinking you would hear them boshing tonight. If there was carp in here, you'd hear them boshing, just not getting anything. I just remember sitting there. And as I sat there, I remember having a conversation with Alwyn's around Al's house. He was battered after a barbecue. And I remember it was really warm that night as well. I remember just going, can you just imagine the carp everywhere now? Just, if you go flight fishing first thing this morning, you catch loads of carp. And I just thought, yeah, you would catch, like, this is the morning, you catch loads of carp. So I was thinking of that drunken conversation with Alan and going, right, get my map out. Where nearby I'm thinking like a park lake nearby where they've probably been hammered on bread before, but first thing in the morning when that park's quiet, you might catch one. And I remember finding the perfect one. Is it called like Hamilton Park?
Hamilton Park.
Hamilton Park. So I went down. So I hadn't slept that night. That's fishing here. I'd just been up all night. Like, I didn't even bring a bed chair. I was just laying on a hooking mat, just trying to see if I could see one show. I didn't. It got to like 4, and I was like, fuck this. Like, this ain't the one. I'm going to go to this Hamilton Park. I went down there. I saw you got a ring for a day ticket.
You're not ringing that number,
I'm not ringing that number at 4 a.m. If the bloke who runs it hears this, I owe you a tenner. So message Nash.
Send it in the comments below.
I'll send you a tenner.
With interest.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not ringing this guy. I'll do a lap. I'm pretty shattered at this point. I'll do a lap, see if anything's happening. If one does, I'll sneak one out. If someone does come around, I'll just do the old foreign. No, I can't do foreign in England, but I'm sure I'll be able to get out of it, and I'd apologise and give him the tenner and say, look, I'm sorry, man, I didn't want to ring you at 4 a.m. to go, right, can I fish your lake? Like, you weren't going to appreciate that. So went around, did a lap, and got a load feeding on bread. And I was like, this is on. Like, I am going to fish here. Over the course of those next 2 hours, I was in the lake 3 times where I'd hooked fish that got snagged up, landed every single one. But I remember I'd caught like a 23-pound common, like a 24-pound mirror, and then like an upper double, really dark mirror, just all floating bread on the top, thinking, oh, this is amazing, this place. This is a little gem, like I found one. I remember being stood, after my third one, being stood in this lake in the middle of Leicester, just as it started getting busy, just looking at this carp going, this is a bit weird. How have I got myself in this situation? But I'm glad I have. Anyway, over the next course, as soon as it hit 6 o'clock, people started walking around. By 7 o'clock, it was rammed, like disgustingly busy. And I was just like, oh, this is horrible. I'm leaving. I'm going. This isn't for me. I'm going to go home, get some sleep and figure out, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of the year then? Because I thought I'd find a lake on the little outing that I'd done where I was jumping between lakes, and I hadn't found one. So you'd have a little rethink. And although I went back to the Hamilton Park again early mornings, it wasn't the same. And it wasn't for me. It was too much of a park lake for me, definitely. So yeah, it wasn't the one that. Then I start talking to some guy, and we found another little poaching lake, which we thought, yeah, this is the one. We can spend a bit of time on it.
The poaching pirates.
The poaching pirates. Yeah, he's So we went and fished there. I'm still fishing it, so I'm going to try and be very careful. If all of a sudden there's like a jolt in this edit, is where I've said something I shouldn't, and I've gone to you. You need to take that out. Yeah. But anyway, we started fishing there, baiting heavily, getting spots going, catching a few really nice ones up to 30 pounds, seeing a few real big ones, being like, oh my God, this is incredible. The spot we were fishing, again, because you're poaching, I felt like it was starting to get blown because it was one spot. There's nowhere else in this lake they were getting caught. All of a sudden, there's this one spot that appears for them. Thinking about that carp behaviour again, there's one spot that appears for them. There's loads of food that they're not used to eating in the first place. Like they're not eating boilies, and their mates are getting caught. Like this spot's gonna get blown. Like it's when you could see it. Whereas when we were catching the first few, it was like 7 or 8 fish just proper troughing. Now it was one would gingerly come in. It was getting a lot harder, and I thought, right now, okay, we need to find new spots. So I thought I can fish from here, the spot we're in here, and not get caught. You can't really cast because it's so undergrowth. I'm going to get a boat them out, drop them. And I remember the first night I went out one evening.
What boat did you get?
I got a like crappy inflatable for like 30 quid off the internet.
Classic.
Bright orange, not covert at all. Bright orange. I thought,
on a lake you should not be fishing.
I thought, I'll be fine. Like it'll be fine. So I was like, so I went out, found these really nice spots, put some bait on it. Thought, right, I'll go back and fish it again. Went back to fish it again a couple of days later, and because I hadn't got caught that first time going out, like right before dusk, it's in the middle of nowhere. There is a road nearby, but it's a quiet road, and I thought, oh, I'll be fine. And I remember going out the second time, dropped my third rig. What I was doing was, I was going out with a bait bucket with my rig in it, and then opening the bail arm, and then tying a sock with the line and the blank, so that the line wasn't pulling off freely, but you weren't pulling it off on a clutch either, so you're getting loads of line twist. By tying a sock around it, it comes through pretty easily. Like there's not much resistance there, but you're not. If you've just got an open bail arm, like you get really shit line lay. Whereas this was, Tommy taught me this actually. This was a good tip. Cheers for this, Tom. I remember just making my way back to the bank after dropping that third rod with one sock on, and just seeing in this little cutout this bloke in a high vis vest, just like looking out like that, going, "Oh, I've been rumbled." I got back and he went, "What are you doing?" I went, "Fishing."
What did he say?
And he's like, "You're not allowed to fish here. Surely you know that." I went, "Sorry, man, I didn't see any signs." He was, and to be fair to him, he was sound as anything, and got away with it.
And since I've been back 15 times.
I've not been back once yet. I've not been back once. I've not been back.
I won't go back.
I won't go back.
Honestly.
He was honestly saying, he's like, "Mate, sorry, you can't fish here, and especially you can't go out by yourself in a little boat
in a
like
bright
that."
Orange eBay boat.
Orange eBay boat, yeah. So that one was.
How big do you think you've seen him in there, mate?
40. 40, definitely mid-30s, a couple of mid-30s, but I'm convinced I saw there's a big one in there. I'm convinced. It never came in and fed. There was a few definite mid-30s coming in and feeding, but I'm sure I saw. Got a good glimpse of it. It turned, looked like sideways, and then went off again. And when it turned sideways, it was definitely one I hadn't seen before. and it was big, man. It was real big, like
Exciting.
really big. Yeah, really exciting. Like this is
Not that we at Nash Tackle condone any form of poaching. Please make sure you're fishing legally. Don't do as Henry Lennon has done. He's learnt from his mistake. He's a better human as a result.
I am. I would never ever poach a water.
That though is classic Henry, searching for a little bit of your fishing. Anywhere else around the Leicester way that you fished, mate?
No, and like I said, because I was getting into this, I was like, this is my year. And again, same as the year before when the year before, it's because I caught everything, I had to move on. This time it's like, oh, I'm sort of at a dead end here. Like, what do I do? And then I was just like, right, okay, what? You've got no good tickets. You can't get a ticket now. It's like early June. Like you're not going to get a ticket off the bat where you can go and fish for amazing fish that you want to catch. What can you do? And I was like, right, what type of angling do you want to get better at? I was like, zig fishing. I'm a terrible zig angler. I think I've got one fish on a zig before, and it is such a big edge. I always remember this conversation between going back to learning so much, just being around Nash, just being in that environment, being sat there one day, listening to Alf and Tommy, both really good zig anglers, talking about it and talking about how they zig fish, and it was something like whether they flavour their foam. I remember just putting in going, oh, zig fishing, I never do. I can't get my head around it. I just don't think it's worth it. And Tom just turned to me and went, well, you're missing out on loads of opportunities to catch fish then. And it really just hit me like, everyone talks about how zig fishing is a massive edge, but still no one really does it. And it is such a big edge, like huge edge. I was like, until you go out and do it and get confident at it, you're never really going to do it. And why aren't you going to go out and get confident at it? Like, what's your excuse for not doing it? I was like, I haven't got one. Like, especially now, I haven't got one. I was like, right, okay, I know a lake where the deeper the lake, the clearer the lake. I've learned this since. The deeper the lake, the clearer the lake, the better it will be for fishing for zigs. And Nash Lakes, Royston, both of those lakes fit that bill. They're not super clear. You've got a good few foot, but they're both really deep. Both pressure, and people don't really zig fish on there. I've heard of boys zig fishing it before. Max has done really well zig fishing there.
Tommy did his 24 zig fishing there, didn't he?
Yeah, but that was after since I fished it. So before that, I know that Wilson, Max had done really well on there. So I was like, right, okay, zig fishing at Royston. Like, I've got access to this really popular day ticket with some really nice fishing, offering this type of angling I want to get better at. What's your excuse for not going to do it? So yeah, I really got stuck into my Royston fishing, and I remember the first I'd started fishing on kingfisher and caught a fair few. I remember losing quite a few because there was a snag there that I just kept losing fish on when I was trying to hold and stop them getting around, because you've got to fish with barbless hooks there, and like you're fishing, you know what zig fishing's like. Everything's a little bit dainty, and it's not really great for stopping fish getting in snags. I remember trying to stop where I was catching loads, getting loads of bites. They would always go to this snag and trying to stop them, and I just lost a few. I remember one morning I'd lost 3 fish in a row, and I lost the third one, and it was 4 a.m. in the morning, and I just went, fuck this. I just packed up and just went home. I was supposed to do another night, and I just like, fuck this. I was so pissed off. Packed up my van, loaded it in there, just drove home with a massive hump. And that was the last time I fished kingfish. I was like, I'm going to fish Royston, Wood Lake. To be honest, I don't know why I didn't start on there. It's almost like because it is kind of like, that's the bigger lake. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to start my zig fishing on there. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, that's too out my depth. But I was like, I'm catching them now. There's bigger fish in there. Hopefully there's not as many snags. Like, I'll have a go on there. I remember I got down there late one evening, late on a Sunday, because I was just going to do a quick overnighter. No, I wasn't. I got down there Sunday afternoon as everyone was sort of starting to leave, the weekend anglers. I thought I'll do the Sunday, and then I'll leave it Monday morning. And I think I caught one during the day on a bottom bait rig, because I had 2 out on the zigs and one on the bottom bait rig down to my margin. Caught one on that during the day. Didn't catch anything during the night. Got up about sort of 5, and I remember thinking, I've not caught one. Like, maybe I need to go back on kingfisher and figure out the zig fishing a little bit more. And just as the sun, there's really high banks at Royston, just as the sun hit over it, I don't know if I'm thinking of this in my head, but it was really like that. As soon as that sun hit the water, it's almost like they all just came up a little bit and hit the depth I was fishing my zigs. And over the course of the next hour and a half, which should have been an hour, which meant I was late for work, I had 4 bites and landed 3 up to 31 pounds.
Nice.
And I was just like, geez. Like,
yeah, zig's the one.
That I remember driving down thinking, I think I might have cracked this a little bit, because Wood Lake's hard, really hard, and a lot of people struggle on there. And it's because no one fishes zigs. Like, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I remember after I'd been down there a while and caught quite a few, and one of the old head bailiff, Cap, was saying, someone was asking, they're all in my, there was a load of them in my swim, and they were going, one was going, how are you catching loads, Henry? How are you catching? And Cap went, I'll tell you how Henry's catching them. He's super attentive. He's constantly watching the water, and any little reaction, any little incident, he's reacting to them. And I just like, in my head, I was like, mate, you know what I was doing? The great thing about Royston is it's got full 4G. So I was going down there and working, hotspotting up my phone, sitting in my van, working, not looking at the water at all. I knew that the zigs were at the right level. I knew that the fish were there. There was nothing to do with like watercraft and paying close attention to the water. It's because I was fishing zigs. It was as simple as that. And
were you fishing adjustables?
I started off fishing adjustables.
Yeah.
But I'm convinced what happens there is they spend a lot of time in the middle because they're a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Pushes them out to the middle, and they just sort of do circles at the middle in a big shoal. I'm sure like there's a couple of, at least one big shoal there. And I started fishing adjustables, and I wasn't catching as many as I felt like I should be. Like they'd all be boshing over you, and you'd get one or two. And I think what was happening was where you're fishing for a shoal and you're fishing with an adjustable, let's say the shoal's covering 4 foot of water, and your zig hook link there is like 3 foot. So you're hitting that top layer there. Those bottom fish are hitting that adjustable, and they're scared of it, which is spooking the rest of the shoal. And again, like I'd rather not use adjustables if I can get away with it, because zigs aren't great for hooking and landing fish anyway. Adjustables are even worse, I found. Fixed zigs, I think, are much better, especially if you're dropping the lead straight away, which I was. Yeah. It means you're basically just paying them on a line straight through, which is, you've never really got any issues. But when you're fishing them on adjustables and you've got a big lead swinging around and you've got that big float swinging around, you always risk losing a few more. I sort of clocked that was happening, and I was just like, why can't I fish with a 16, 17, 18 foot fixed zig? Like what? Because it will tangle. Yeah, will it? And no, it didn't. Like if you put an XL adjustable kicker on, lay it all out nicely, put the hook on a bucket so it's not hitting any bar because you're casting it. Put a PVA foam so you can see the separation. You're never gonna I found that I really exaggerate the cast, feather it down. I've never had a tangle. I find that the longer the zig, it makes it less likely to tangle because there's so much more separation.
I think it's just netting them sometimes, isn't it? If you're on
your
own,
sometimes netting them,
you're all right because you got arms.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
I think I got away with it. I think the longest I landed one was like 18, 19 foot fixed, but they were really like just holding up like that and just leaning forward. And as long as you're playing properly, like it's a bit of a struggle, but you do land them. Like,
I think that's all you, mate. I'm like a T-Rex with my arms, mate. I'd be if I have 2 foot zig, I'm struggling. But no,
so maybe that did help. So I was fishing fixed there, and like I said, that was why I remember one day I got down there, I'd rang Cap on my way up, going, how's it fishing? He goes, it's busy. There's 8 on. And when it was busy, I never liked fishing it because. Luckily, because obviously working for Nash, I don't have to pay for tickets. So I always felt bad when it was busy, taking it away from paying customers. But he's like, there's 8 on, but there's 1 leaving, and we've not got no more booking on. So I was like, all right, I'll do 36 hours. I'll
do 3 weeks.
Yeah. Rope a swim off for me, would you, Cap?
Get it baited.
So I was like, I'll go down and do it. He's like, it's busy. No one's caught. It's not going to bite in like a week. And I thought, it could be a bit tricky. And I remember that next, so I caught a couple that night. I never did too well on zigs during the day there. During the night there, that morning, from as soon as it got to first light to about 3-4 in the afternoon, I think I had like 10 bites. And at points during the day, people would, because it's a bit of a bowl there, so everyone again can see it. Everyone would come around and say, "How are you catching them? What are you catching them? Like what bait are you catching them on?" I go, "I'm fishing zigs, mate. Like this is what I think's happening. They're moving around like this. When I start seeing shows, I put a zig on them. I'm fishing at 15 foot. I'm dropping down to this point. If this happens." Give it a go. And he's like, I've not got any zigs. I'm like, here you go, mate. Like, try one out for you. There you go. Good luck. Let me know if you get any. And I watched him walk back to his swim and just cast. I can see him casting out a bottom bait with a PVA bag on it. Just when it's like, people are just so reluctant to do it that it's such a massive edge still. And I was like, that's why. Looking back now, I'm so glad I've done this for last year, because still people, no matter, even if you're looking at someone catching 10 fish and you've been blanking there for 3 days. And it's clear that the only thing he's doing different to you is he's fishing zigs. They still won't fish zigs. It just find it amazing. But to be fair, I was like that up until last year. Like,
yeah, I get it too. It is a leap of faith.
It is that leap of faith. And when people mess me and ask me about it, I always say to them, "No, you you need to go somewhere and you have that first session. Like I had that session that morning.
Yeah.
And it just clicks for you and you're like, no, this is.
And then you actually, if you see a show, get to the point where you will chuck a zig at it rather than chuck a single at it sometimes.
Exactly. And
depending on the show.
And your zig fishing is not a last resort. It's not, blanked it for a weekend. I'm better put a zig out, see if that works. Don't catch it now and go, oh, zigs are shit, aren't they? That reaffirmed that to me. No, you'll go in and like when I'd go to drive to Royston, it wasn't a case of, I've got my scope, it's good, I've got this. It's like, have I got enough bullet zig flow for my my zigs? Like that was it. That's all I was fishing. And I did have a lot of success considering how hard it is on there on the bottom. Like, let's make that clear. It's not a hard lake if you're zig fishing. Considering how hard it is on the bottom there and how many people go there and struggle, and how I would definitely struggle if I was fishing bottom baits, I feel like I really did crack it there. I think I had I was going through it the other day actually, looking how many. I think I probably did like 15 nights and I had something like 40 fish and 230s, loads and loads. There's such a good head of like upper mid 20s in there. Like I remember bracing 3 26s in about the space of 20 minutes once.
Nice.
It's a great lake, really great lake, but you've got to just be open minded and just not. The thing is, it's so deep, and people are fishing in like 27 foot of water in the middle of summer when no fish is getting down that deep, no fish is getting down there. Like, and you just got to. Whenever someone asks me about Royston, zigs, I just say, he's like, "What's your tips on bait? Should I use a Ronnie rig? Should I use a slip D? I'm thinking of bringing a load of pineapple crushes." I'm like, just fish black zigs, mate. Just get some zig screws and fish black zigs. If the weather's like this, they'll probably be at this depth. If the weather's not like this, they'll probably be at this depth. That's not a guarantee though, so move it around. Once you found them, mate, you will have it off. And I remember so many times when they're boshing in the middle, because they do like a show in there. They do like a show in there up to about July, and then during the day they stop. When they've been hammered quite a bit, they stop showing during the day. But those early sort of months there, like you'd see them boshing. And you know you've got 3 zigs out there. You know that the right depth because you've had a couple the day before, and when the conditions are like this, those are the depth you're catching. Bosh, get close and closer. All of a sudden, the left-hand rod goes, land that. Middle rod goes, land that. Right-hand rod goes, land that. Okay, quick, get one back out again. You got another one. You got no rods in the like
clockwork.
Like
carnage.
5 or 6 times that's happened where it's like, what more proof do you want that zigs?
They're so effective.
They're so effective, and I kick myself thinking that it's taken me this long to open up my mind and go for it. And Tom's right. You've missed out on a lot of fish catching opportunities there.
Not anymore, though, mate.
Hopefully not.
No.
Yeah. But now that's the main thing I wanted out last year. Like I said, I wanted a UK 40, but going back to again what been reinforced for me from the best, like Kev, Alan, people like that. It's not always just about catching them. It's about making yourself a better angler. So if I'd caught that, if I'd caught the slate grey at 42 pounds, and I've been so overwhelmed with it, I probably would have learnt a lot from doing it. But by going to Royston and zig fishing for a year, I think I've become a lot better angler I have than if I'd caught that UK 40 from Bovey 2, like 100%. And yeah, it's just Tommy always sums it up really well. Zig fishing, he's like, how as a 24 hours a day, how many hours are the carp feeding on the bottom? 1, 2, something like that.
If you're lucky, yeah.
If you're lucky, like that's why you got those morning, dusk and dawn, you've got those tight feeding spells. Where are they the rest of the time? They're in the mid-water, and they've not got fingers. They're going to go around and investigate things, and they see something, they're going to suck it up and see what it is, especially if it's not something they associate with danger, they've not been caught on before, and because no one zig fishes really, they don't associate that bit of foam and ball of maggots as danger. So, yeah.
Get on the zigs.
Get on the zigs.
Don't all get on them though, because you're ruining
it. Don't everyone get on them. Don't everyone get on them.
In terms of, I mean, that's really like, as you say, added to your angling vocabulary. But one aspect of angling that I wanted to talk to you about is you've got your fishing there, but also with Nash, there's a lot of work fishing.
Yeah.
So whether that be filming, whether that be product shoots, whether that be magazine stuff, but you're out angling in situations that aren't necessarily your choice, but obviously you've got to deal with. So first of all, how did you react to that type of fishing? And what are some of your sort of fondest, because you've had mega socials and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. What are your fondest memories about work fishing?
It blows me away sometimes when you really think about it, like I'm getting paid to go fishing. Like what? It is amazing. It's so, and sometimes me and Alf always joke about it. Like, if we ever go on a shoot and we're starting to complain, like, oh, we've got to do this and that, and just stop and go. We actually said that we were planning a shoot now, and we said, if any point, it's quite a long shoot, if any point over the next 10 days for the shoot, we moan to each other, make sure we say to each other, you're getting paid to go fishing. Stop moaning, because you've
made it.
What more of a job? What is better than that?
Yeah.
For me, there's nothing I'd rather do than go fishing. So if I'm getting paid to do that, like, brilliant. And going back to what I was saying before about I need to do something I love, then that is perfect. So we have had a good few trips. I remember the very first one that I went on. We'd done a few like junior angling days. We do junior angling days like for the Rochford Angling Club around here, where we go to a few clubs and you just sort of helping kids out, catch a few fish. Really easy, like setting up a float for them. So I'd done a few of that and enjoyed it. And then there was a bigger one coming up with Plumpton College that Tom was like, I think a few people were away filming and Tom needed another person. I was like, yeah, I'll do it 100%. Thinking that, I remember driving down thinking, oh, these lads are probably going to be better anglers than me. Like, they go to fishery management school, like they're going to be really into it. But we got down there and there's a few good anglers there, but a lot of them, carp angling wasn't their first style of angling.
Okay.
Or they'd done very little of it. So it was a lot of case of you do everything for them, you explain everything you're doing and they'll learn from it. And then they sort of like just reel in the fish. But they're getting a lot out of it still, 100%. Like, I remember I had 4 lads with me for mine. And they're all sound, they're all spot on, and they're all like really eager to learn. But yeah, you do a lot for them, and it's a great lake where we went to, the Ash, the Carp Syndicate, great lake. And I remember we'd struggled the first day, and none of my lads had caught, which I was stressing out about big time. I think Tom had caught one with one of his, or two with 2 of his out of his 4. Ollie, of course, had caught all of his lads of fish. And I was like, oh, my kids are going to hate me. Like, they've definitely not taken as much technical information away from me as they have with Ollie and Tom either. Like, they're going to talk about that when they go back and go, yeah, I was stuck with Henry. God, he was shit. One of my lads did catch like a little 15-pound one, but I was like, oh, at least one of them's caught. And then one of them had a screamer. Played it in after a while. He played it like a boss, to be fair to him, and up pops a 44-pounder, new lake record.
Way.
Yeah. And so on one side of thing, I'm so happy for him because, like I said, they were proper listening. They took everything on board. They were really good. But then, and I'm so happy for him.
He has done you a kipper.
But at the same time, I'm just like, I have done everything there, and that would have been my first UK 40. So I was just like, oh. But
I bet he was absolutely.
Oh mate, he was
a 44-pounder.
Yeah, like, and I look at the picture. It's one of my favourite pictures with all the kids. I say kids, like some of them were older than me. So like it wasn't. It was like a college, but it's one of my favourite photos of him there. But I remember driving away thinking after going, oh, that could have been my first 44. That could have been my first UK 40. But yeah, I was still so happy for him when he caught that. So
mate, the carp gods will pay you back for that. What an experience for him.
Yeah, I hope so. Actually, they did that session. So they were sound. They learned loads. I remember they were a little bit. I remember before they caught that, a little bit. They weren't as interested in my rig clinics.
Yeah.
After it was like, show us that rig again, would you, Henry? Show us this again. Show us this again. So I felt like, I was like, first of all, it was a lot different from the Rayleigh Angling Day ones where it was really, really basic. Now this one, I was like, I feel like I've taught people something, which it was like, oh, that's a great achievement. He's caught a fish of a lifetime. He won't forget soon. Would I have liked to have caught it? Yeah, but at the same time, I'm very, very glad he's had it. Hopefully, my UK 40 will come soon. But then later that night, they all left and we had the day for ourselves. And I actually did catch my UK PB that night as well. We did a live stream.
I don't remember seeing this live stream.
We did a live stream, and Alf's filming me. The bushwhacker just come out. Alf's filming, like doing a sneak peek of me dropping a bushwhacker. As I'm dropping it, Ollie gets a bite. Alf runs round, films all that. In the process of that happening, the rod that I've dropped with the bushwhacker goes off, and I've watched this live stream back a few times. I think it's still on the Nash Facebook page somewhere. Watched it back, and I was just going, yeah, what a great way to end that live stream then. A live fish, I think that's the first live fish on a live stream. And then you see him go, what? Henry, you're in. And they run round. Alfie gets chased by a goose halfway around. It's carnage. And I'm playing this absolute monster of a mirror, £38.9. I always remember Tom netting it for me, and as he netted, he just went, and turned around and looked at me and went, a very big carp. I always remember that. I'm just like, yes, come on. So I had that £38. So like you say, getting paid
That's
back.
cool.
So I got that one. Got some sick photos from Ollie.
Even better. Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
Ollie's
Ollie's there, so you get the best photos. And I caught 32 that night. Alfie actually caught his UK PB that session as well. 44, 45, I think it was, which broke the lake record of the one that my lad had just caught.
Yeah.
We timed it perfectly, basically, on that lake.
That's
like,
a
it's hard.
Series of
It's a hard
yeah.
lake, and it was just before spawning, and it was like the last feed up before spawning. I think like 2, 3, 4 days later they did start spawning, so we'd got it perfect. And yeah, that was like my first. I said that was my first proper work fishing trip, and I was like, wow,
this'll do.
yeah, this is all right, isn't it? If they all go like this, then
Sign me up.
bring it on, 100%. And then what was one after that? Then it was we did like a big southwest road trip tour down like Devon, sort of that area, where we went for like a week. A load of us, me, Alf, Ollie, Tom, Dan, Alan, Chloe, the girls. We went down there. We did like a load of shop days and a load of junior angling days. We went down to Anglers Paradise and all that.
Nice.
And it was like, do you want to come, Henry? I was like, yeah, absolutely. That sounds good. Bear in mind, at this point, I was about a week away from accepting my offer from Rotterdam University to go and do my master's there. I remember thinking before accepting it, going, I really really love it here, and it's a really tough decision for me to make. Like, do I see myself doing this forever, or do I is it just like a couple of year thing, and then I need to focus on my real career, to put it. I was like, I'll wait till after this trip till I decide. We went down on this trip, and it was just amazing. Like, it was like you were on holiday. We got so much done. I remember doing these angling days. I remember me and Alf were talking about today. We didn't shower for like 4 or 5 days, but it was like you were with your mates, just going fishing, going around all these amazing places. Go to Anglers Paradise that I've seen Matt Hayes fishing, like on the videos I used to watch, meeting all these amazing people, getting on with people, like really getting on with, like, I've been there for like 6 months at that point, like really starting to get to know everyone and feeling like you're part of that Nash family now. And it was just, fantastic, like really, really good. And I came back from that trip and was just like, this career may not pay as well as I was thinking when I took economics back then. I don't care, because I love it so much that I'm sticking.
It pays you in other ways, doesn't it?
It pays you in other ways, and I was just like, sorry, Rotterdam, not that they cared.
Sorry. But, what was your parents' reaction to that? Were they happy and supportive?
Yeah, my parents are just sound. They're happy, supportive. They just, as long as I'm happy, they're happy. So they were like, I think they probably already knew that I was going to stay and do it, because I was just coming back, just so excited to tell them about like what I was doing at work and everything. So that was a really good trip. I remember, I just remember at one point we didn't have I think Alan had a slideshow in the evening somewhere, and it was like we had a free day, and we went wrasse fishing somewhere, and we didn't catch. We saw like some massive seals or something, and we were just sat by the countryside, like down like Cornwall area, sun shining. You were just with your mates. We were in a beer garden. We'd got a couple of beers, and just remember thinking like, this is all right. And I'm going to go back tonight and go fish a lake full of 20s and 30s. Like,
this is me.
This is a bit of me.
Yeah.
This is a bit of me. Like, why would you pass up on this opportunity for something where the grass is greener? Because the grass is pretty green here, and I'm gonna stick. So that I really remember that trip just being like, this is sick.
Solidified it,
and just being like, this is. It's not like this is. It's not just a couple of years. This is it. This is what you want to do, and it was. I'm glad I made that call. Basically,
Southwest road trip.
It was great. Yeah. Who else went? Ian Fazalaki, the paramedic. Have you ever met Ian?
Yes, I have. He did the junior horseshoe camp.
Ian came because I remember we drove back together, and no one trusted me to drive the big van, so we had to drive all the way. He drove the massive craft for like 6-7 hours, and he smashed out. To be fair, he must be used to driving all the ambulances and everything.
To be fair, mate, I think that's a great decision. your track record with braking stuff, this sound mixer right down here, mate. I have to go through 3 extra steps to edit this podcast because you smashed it to bits.
I blame Dan for that still. I blame Dan.
We're not getting into this on this podcast.
And anyway, when I first started, yes, okay, I wasn't the best driver. I crashed my little Peugeot 207, the turbo tackle box, on the way to the Big One show. On the way to the Big One show, crashed that. Yeah, okay, granted. As soon as I got my new van, first thing I did after the bloke who dropped it off drove down and then you'd be dropped off at a hotel. I was like, don't worry, mate, it's 20 minutes away. I'll drive. You don't get a taxi. First thing I did was drive into a bush. Instead of reversing, I went straight forward into the hedges out there. First thing, I remember everyone was around, like Richie P, Dino, Alf, Mikey, they're all in the car park, like, let's check out Andy's new van. I remember just not putting it in reverse, being in first and just going forward a little bit. Like no damage happened. I remember just looking up at everyone like that, going, and look at them just looking at me, like shaking their head, looking at the mate I've got to drive and just going, good luck, mate. So I had a very bad reputation as a driver, but since then I've had absolutely no, I have had one issue.
Brilliant,
which I'll get onto in a minute, but Dan's the worst driver here. In the last space of 3 months, he's forgot to put his handbrake on and drove it into...
Did he technically drive it if he's not got his handbrake on?
No, he forgot to put his handbrake on and it reversed into a lorry wash sign and smashed that to pieces. He's nearly took his door off, dropping maggots off for Alan somewhere. He's done something else as well. And he drives like a third of the speed limit. Dan is the worst driver. He's taking that away from me now.
The first time I got in Dan's van was to drop my old Angling Direct van off in Rayleigh. And he made me stop at the side of a really narrow path and pick up his wing mirror, which he'd smashed off the day before.
That's you go.
Pretty.
Dan is the worst driver by a mile. Like, bear in mind, because I'd only passed my driving test 6 months before joining Nash. So all that stuff that's happened, that's like your first year of driving.
I'll wait a couple of years. I reckon I'll do the driving until you've done a couple of years, Henry, mate.
That was Alan's opinion when we went on a trip together to Holland for a shop day. Everyone who starts at Nash, they always go, oh my God, I'm going to be able to fish with Alan Blair. And very soon, they realise that it's not all it's cracked up to be. Anyway, this was I get to go on a trip with Alan Blair. It's going to be great. And we went to Holland for a shop opening day at Hengel Sport. What was it? Hengel Sport. I don't remember the name of it, but Hairco in Holland. Great tackle shop. Really good staff there. Tim Verloop, one of our Dutch consultants, he works for them, so we met with him, did some fishing with him, and Marco, a videographer over there who is probably one of my favourite people in the world. Marco, there's people who when you're spending the day with them, it will not be a bad day. It will be a very funny day. Marco's one of them. He is just the funniest guy. He's got this weird Dutch Essex accent where he's obviously learnt his English.
Been corrupted, basically.
Like all the foreigners who've learnt English as a second language that I knew growing up, they'd all in the international in Switzerland, they'd all learnt American English.
Yeah.
But he's learnt Essex English and his accent just kills me. He's so funny. He's such a funny guy. Anyway, so on the drive out there, I was banned from driving.
Good
because of my track record. Alan would do it, but Alan hates driving. And anyway, one of the reasons I came along as well, as you can imagine, Al gets loads and loads of messages on Instagram, constant messages, people asking him, people saying how much they love whatever he's been in recently, blah, blah, blah. And it really grinds Alan that he can't answer everyone because you know how busy he is. He's going a million miles per hour. Yeah. There's no way he can answer everyone. He tries to answer as many people as possible, but it is an impossible task. And it really grinds him because he wants to get back to everyone and thank them and for their kind words. So he was like, right, you come with me, I'll drive. As we're driving, we'll do these messages. You read them out to me. I'll let you know what the response is. You type away and do that. So I was like, yeah, sweet, we'll do that. Went out there, answered a load of messages, but didn't make a dent really in them at all. Had the shop day, got loads of fishing in there as well. I remember the first. I think that I'm quite good at putting the effort in and sticking to it, and Alan Blair style fishing.
Yeah.
And I can do it for about 36, 48 hours. But then once you hit that, I'm done. But he's got another at least 24 hours in.
That's second gear.
Yeah, exactly. So he's ready to go. I remember we'd just done a shop day. We'd barely had any sleep. We'd done 2 nights on the bank and we'd got to a third venue of the night. And it was freezing cold, middle of winter. And we just got to this tiny little pool that Tim had taken us to. And he showed me some pictures of some like big commons he caught from there. And it wasn't tiny actually, it's probably like 2-3 acres. And him going like, yeah, we've like, I've caught them this time of year, like there's a chance we'll catch one. And we got there, and bear in mind we're doing like 2-3 hours. And then when we talk about it, he's like, yeah, there's 7 carp in here. I just think, what are we doing here then? 7 carp? I remember sitting in my waders after he told me this in the freezing cold in the rushes, just going, this Alan Blair fishing ain't the one.
Nah, it's not the one, is it?
It's not the one. I can do it for a day maybe, but like when I'm running all this sleep at the moment, it's not the one. Anyway, on the way back, he let me drive. He was like, okay, you can drive now. I'd done a bit of driving over there. He's like, okay, you're fine. Like, it's all the boys just taking the mick. It's fine, you'll do it. And we were driving back to the Eurotunnel, absolutely fine. No worries whatsoever, no problem. And all of a sudden, to this day, I'm blaming his shit sat-nav. He's got this really weird sat-nav built into his van that's just terrible. For some reason, it just took us around Anderlecht or something like that. It just took us off the motorway to go through the city. Right. And I think he'd been replying to these messages, or he'd been on his phone doing something. He just looked up and saw us coming off, and he's like, why are we coming off the motorway? I was like, I don't know, your sat-nav just told us maybe there's something going up ahead. He's like, oh, okay, whatever. And we're going through, and it was just it was like rush hour in a very like a medieval European city. It was not the one. It was, oh my God. I remember at one point he was looking down at his phone and he looks up again, and I was trying to turn left, and I thought that the lane was that you need to get that one to turn left, but it was just the way the other traffic was coming with a traffic light. I remember looking up, I remember going to it, and then the cars started coming from their traffic light into there. And there's a bloke just like a Belgian guy just looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, you're in the wrong side of the road. Alan was looking down at his phone, like, oh, please don't look up, please don't look up. And he looked up and just like looked at me and just started bursting out laughing. And just before he could get his phone out to film it, thankfully the light turned green and I could get out of it, so he couldn't film that I was on the wrong side of the road. I was like, oh, thank God for that. What he did manage to film was me missing a red light. He's filming me as I'm driving. He's going, where are we going, Henry? What are we doing? What's going on? And as he does that, I run this red light, and you just see this car come the other way and miss us. I'm not joking. It'd be on his story archives. I'll try and get it up later. Missing by like that much, and it just honking its horn, and it just like, he's like, where are you going? What are we doing? And he's like, eh. And then I keep driving, and we like look at each other. And I'm like, that was pretty close, that one. Anyway, eventually we get back onto the motorway. There was no need for us to come off whatsoever. We get back safe and sound. And to be honest, that's probably one of the last like dodge instances I've had in a car since then. That was it.
You've had a few, mate, haven't you?
Yeah, but like that was how long ago that been? Yeah, like 18 months. So I'm good now. I promise. Dan's the worst. The worst.
I'll see.
Yeah, definitely.
To be revisited. Definitely.
To be revisited, 100%.
What about two big ones that come to mind are the social. I'm yet to go on one, but that looked like great times.
Yeah,
and which I've got to ask everybody is, it doesn't happen often, but you've done a little bit on the church that I've heard of, haven't you?
Yeah. Which one? The social. We'll do the social first. Yeah. So the social. Yeah. So first of all, so thankful because I'd only been there sort of 10 months. I wasn't really expecting to get the invite, and I did. I was so happy to go. Like again. I would pay to do this trip, and I'm being paid to do it. So it's like I was so thankful to be able to go and do it. So excited, but also very nervous because obviously there's a lot of pressure. You're not fishing for yourself now. You're fishing for the cameras.
Yeah,
and someone's paid. And
there's some money been laid out.
Yeah, Kev's laid out a lot of money for this. Like it's not just a jolly up. You need to go and catch some fish. I remember being really, really nervous and struggling for the first 2 nights. And then that morning is when I caught my first fish, which was a 41 pounder. And I was just like, I've never had a fish just release like so much relief from me. It was like, I was like, oh, thank God. Rang down. All the boys are going around. It's a big lake. All the boys are going around on their bikes and stuff. All the videographers to film everything and just going on the walkie-talkies going, yeah, I've got one in the net. I think it's a half decent one. So they came round, were like, okay, I think I haven't caught one yet. I didn't have the new Nash mats and stuff with me, and we needed the new ones for the shots and everything. So he was like, just go down to Mikey Swims. We'll watch the rods. Go down to Mikey Swim, a couple of swims down. Go get Carp Care. He's got all the mats. Go get them and then come back. The process of doing that, Dan, absolute joker that he is, moves the fish, takes out the sack I put it in, puts it in a retainer and hides it around the corner. And this is all on the social if you've not seen it already. But I remember coming back, getting everything set up. Like I've done a few like little pieces to camera and everything. This is my first one where it's like, this is it. This is where Henry Lennon's got to go. Yeah, I caught this on my Scopex squid. This is the rig I use, blah, blah, blah. Getting ready to do that. And Dan was like, okay, yeah, all the shots ready. Lift it out, Henry. And just lifting and it just being empty, just lifting, going, oh my God, no. And you've seen the footage of
That's
me.
horrible,
like,
isn't it?
My eyes just go and my face is like, oh, where I think, first of all, how tough it'd been that time. And I'd finally got a nice one. And
it's your 15 minutes of fame on your first social.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
It wasn't even that. It was like, no one's going to believe you've caught one and then it swam out. And like, this sort of takes the pressure off you a little bit because everyone was struggling. At least you've caught one there, so it's not a complete flop. And it swam out the net. And I actually do remember, I wasn't 100% sure if I'd done the ring clip up on there. And I was just thinking like, oh my God, I didn't do it. And it swam out through there. It's just like smashed it a little bit. I just remember going to the boys like, have you moved it? Is this a joke? And they're going, no, like we've not done it. And Dan, everyone pulled their face so well. And for like a good 2 minutes, my world was over. I was just like, no, if you've not seen it, check it out
horrible,
because
mate.
you see a young boy's dreams die, basically. It was horrible. I did, and then eventually Dan's face just starts smiling. I wasn't angry at him because I was so happy that I hadn't lost it.
Thank God.
Yeah, exactly. Thank God. And I remember after catching that being so like pressure's off. I can angle now. I can fish. I ended up doing all right. I think I caught the most out of everyone.
Oh, Terry, he's back.
But no, it was tough going. It's the same thing again. It was a pressured lake. It's at the end of the season. Like it's hot and cold weather. We just hit a bad week.
Yeah.
Like if 10 anglers, not including myself, good anglers as well, are all blanking or not blanking, all struggling. It's not that because they're doing something wrong. It's because the fish are just not having it at the moment. And that's what I think I've learned a lot is the pressured carp just switch on and off.
Yeah.
So hot and cold. And something just triggers. And just because what you did last trip to, for instance, the church as an example, you see people who've had smashed it up one year, caught like 30 and they come back to do the exact same thing at the exact same time of year and it just doesn't happen. They can't get by and it's because they're just not in that feeding mode. I don't know what it is. Dean, the gardener, jokes that Kev's got a switch in his house and says like, yeah, they're good this week. Let them have it. And it's kind of like, it's like almost like that. There's something just triggers them where it's like, right, we have to eat now because they're not behaving. If they were carp, they've never been fished for before and they came across boilies, a really good food item, they will just eat it. Like that's what a wild animal will do. But they're not wild animals. Like it's really
they've been conditioned by the pressure.
By the pressure. So it's a tricky one. So everyone was struggling. I started to catch. I had a few. I remember I had a couple. This is when I thought I was going to break my PB. Yeah. I was expecting to get back and buy my new Nash rig wallet, but it didn't happen. I caught a couple of like 39s, 38. I had a really nice 38-pound linear, which is one of my favourite fish from that trip. So yeah, that was really special. But one thing I do remember from that trip is, so the first night we got there in the evening. We weren't going to fish till the morning. I had a bit of like a social before, and I brought Yellow Thunder with me. Why not? So we got down there, we had a few beers, and we were like, "Oh, Yellow Thunder's in the van. Like, should we just chuck a lure about for a little bit?" So we got down there, chuck a lure about. I caught a catfish on a lure. I never caught catfish on a lure before.
A good one?
Nah, like 10 pound. There's a great photo of me, Alf, and Tom. I'm holding it, and Alf and Tom are there, and like Tom's got a beer in his hand, and Alf's like doing the dorsal for the catfish, which is like it is a great photo. Just a crappy phone shot as well, but I love that photo. And anyway, as soon as that happened, the owner walked past. He's like, "No lure fishing whatsoever. You're not allowed to lure fishing here. You shouldn't be lure fishing." We're like, "Oh, sorry, mate." So he's like, "No more lure fishing." I was like, "Okay, sound." Later in the week, I found out that you've got Gold Ceviche Lake, and then you've got all these big lakes around it, which are sturgeon farms. And I was speaking to the guy, and basically said to me, he didn't speak loads of English, but I basically figured out he was saying like every year when we net the sturgeon farms for the sturgeon, We always catch loads of big carp, loads of big pike, and we put them in here. And there's like 3 or 4 of these farms around Poland, and that's what happens. Whenever they net them and they get the carp out, they come and put them in the carp fishing lake, Golcowice, and that's basically how they get their stock. So I was sitting there one night, as I say, right behind me is one of these sturgeon farms. I'm just sitting there going, well, you never said you can't lure fish in the sturgeon farm, and there's big pike in there. I've still got yellow thunder with me. I just flicked it out. I'll just have a few casts, see if I get one. Brought it through. First one, bang. Ooh. Straight away, like, I've got a big pike. And then just zzz. And then in the moonlight, I just see a sturgeon come out, tail walking. I'm just like, what, Henry, what are you doing? What are you doing?
It seemed like a good idea at one point.
Yeah. I don't know at what point. I was like, if the bailiff at any, thankfully it was like late at night, I was just hiding in the bushes doing this as the thought entered my head. Like, if the bailiff comes past at any point and realizes what you're doing, not only are you going to get kicked off, you're going to get everyone else kicked off. The whole shoot's going to be cancelled. You're an idiot. And this is like a 55, 60 pound sturgeon.
Oh my days. So it's not like a pasty.
No. These are big fish. And you've foul hooked it in the tail. And so it goes and goes and goes. And it takes me like 10, 20 minutes to land. Eventually it comes in backwards. I just grab the tail, unhook the jig and let it go. And I just grab the rod, throw it in my cabin and go and just hide in there, just thinking, Henry, you idiot. What are you doing? You absolute idiot.
Sick.
And that was...
So good job you didn't have cameras around the place.
Oh, mate, I told Barney the next day, I was like, I don't think I can tell anyone, not till we go home, because Dan will shout at me big time. Because Dan, he was...
There's a lot riding on it.
Yeah, there's a lot riding on it. And it's a lot riding on Dan because it's like his production. He's very stressed at the moment because he's trying to manage like 8 different anglers between 4 videographers. I was like, the last thing I want to do is tell this to Dan. He's going to absolutely destroy me for doing it.
There's one you didn't see from the social.
Yeah, oh mate, I just remember as soon as I saw that tail walk, I was like, idiot, you're an idiot, Henry. Why are you doing this? And what a moron. What a moron. And so that's when I really thought I'd fucked it for the whole shoot. But thankfully no one came past, got away with it. And I will not be fishing in sturgeon farms anytime soon.
I don't think you'll be going back to Golcowice either, mate, by the looks of it.
Yeah, that was, what an idiot. I really do apologise. If he does see this, I apologise massively. Massively. What a moron.
I'm a different person now.
Yeah.
Oh, dear, mate. But it looked like a brilliant trip.
Oh, mate, amazing. And like I said, I'm just so grateful that they invited me onto it, because I do realise how lucky we are to be doing things like that. And I don't think we'd take it for granted.
No.
Like we realise how lucky we are, and I love it.
Speaking of invites, the old church boy.
The church lake. So obviously everyone knows about the church. Even I knew about the church growing up in Switzerland and reading people's articles. I remember the first one I read was reading about Jules. Jules fishing there and catching the decade fish. I think it's UK PB, £49.
Yeah.
I remember reading that article that Jules wrote. It must have been Carp World or something. I think it was Carp World. I remember I'd worked with Jules quite a lot now, and I remember when I went to see him in the summer, him showing me the original pictures and was talking about it and showing me the original article. And I remember seeing the pictures and thinking like, that, I've definitely read that when you first published it. So I knew all about the church lake, and it was like, as soon as I got here, as soon as I walked around, it's like, I want to fish here. I want to fish here. And I made it obvious I wanted to fish there, put it like that. If there was ever any work that needed to do on the church, I was the first to raise my hand to help Dean to work on there. And I did this for ages and ages. Eventually summer came around, early summer, carp spawned. Kev, rightly so, gives them a rest for a while, then reopens it again. And just before reopening, with it being that time of year, the lake had gotten, there's reeds everywhere because there was a lot of work to do there to get it ready for the anglers to return. And he realised that it was more than Dean would be able to do during the day. So he said to me and Dean, if you two stay after work for the next week, then you can fish it that weekend before anyone else gets on. So I was like, absolutely, that is fine. I'm absolutely happy to do that. So we grafted really hard for those 5 days leading up to it. And then we're going to work the weekend as well to get everything done and just have the rods out and work as we're doing it. And so on the Friday was when we could start fishing it. As I said, I'd got all the rods ready. I was proper on it. I was in that mode again where Dean says this. Dean says the exact same thing that my mate says. If I'm fixing things, if I'm getting stuff ready, and people are trying to talk to me and saying, "Oh, do you want me to do this?" And he's like, "No, it's fine, I'll do it." And Dean now knows if someone says that to me and we're all fishing together on social, and he's like, "I'll do that," and he's like, "Don't worry, if you want to get this ready," he goes to people, "Just leave him, just let him get on with it." Like just honestly, it's easy, just leave it. Look, have a beer, sit down. He'll do it. He wants to do it. He's not like thinking, "Oh, mate, he's not helping me get rods sorted or whatever." He just wants to do it. Just let him do it. So I'd, in that mode, got everything ready. Like I said, I was soaking wet because we'd been in and out clearing all the reeds. And I was like, I'm soaking wet as it is. I've been in the water. I know how important it is to be fishing these tiny spots that the carp are happy to feed on here because they're so pressured. There's not as much weed in there now, but there was back then. There's a fair bit of weed. How do I know I'm going to be fishing perfectly? I was like, well, how do you go down and you drop and place everything by hand? So I swung this idea by Dean. He was like, "Oh, I'm not sure if it's safe." I said, "Look, you go out in the boat. We have you have a spare life jacket for me. You have a life jacket on. It'll be perfectly safe. Like, I know the normal anglers aren't allowed to do it, rightly so, but come on, it'll be fine. Like, I'm soaking wet as it is anyway." It's like, "Oh, okay." So me and Dean, we knew where the spots kind of were. We'd go out in the boat. I'd jump in. I'd swim down, like blindfold, feel around. You'd feel all the weed, and all of a sudden, it would just drop down like that. And it'll be rock hard, and it's like, okay, the carp have done that. That is a carp feeding spot. Swim up to Dean, go, "Yeah, I found a spot." He's got one of the rods.
What depth are we talking? Because there is a bit of depth in the church, isn't there?
The deepest was probably like 12 foot, something
That's
like that.
That's a fair old stint down.
Yeah, but thing is, I find that English people are very reluctant to open water swim, like things like that. Really reluctant. Whereas in Europe and stuff, my summer was spent growing up those big lakes from as soon as it was warm enough to swim in there till as soon as it was so cold you couldn't. I was swimming in that lake. So I grew up doing that and like free diving with my mates as deep as you can to the bottom of the lake.
So you're comfortable?
I'm really comfortable with it. And I know that's not really an excuse for, especially around water, because you're the most comfortable people. But I was like, in no situation did I feel like, okay, we're at risk here. Like if I did get in a bit of trouble, Dean's right above me in a boat.
Yeah, I suppose.
And yeah, Dean was really reluctant to it, but I think that's just because in England, there's never really any of that open water.
That's our mentality, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, it is, I've realised that as I've come around, because for me, it was really like, well, why wouldn't you do it? But it's a bit like, you want to go swimming in there? Like, that's a bit mental, but it's like, it's just water, like, what's the big deal? So yeah, it was, I remember when you're bringing these rigs down, and I'm really like trying to drive the leads in a little bit to obviously get more pressure, and that way, as soon as you get that take, the lead's gone and it's dropped. And I remember when I'm trying to get it in, because it's so hard, it is like the table like that. That probably didn't sound too great through the...
That's right, mate.
I remember really kicking my feet to try and get this lead in a little bit, and then swimming back up, handful of bait, placing it all perfectly, getting everything sorted, and then going on to the next one, doing the same thing. So, because I kind of knew where a few spots were from speaking to the boys in the office. As I said, I knew I wanted to fish the church one day, and I was hoping I'd get an invite at some point. So whenever I'd go up and speak to the anglers, it's like, "Oh, you're catching a few, mate. Whereabouts are you catching from then? Like, what's the spot?" And he's like, "You can't happy to tell you because he thinks you know anyway." He's like, "Yeah, it's sort of that far out, blah, blah, blah." So I sort of mentally clocked where there was a few good spots, but didn't know exactly where. So it'd be then, right, okay, the next one, we go back to the bank, set the rod, it's all perfect. And just sort of keep repeating that process until we got all our rods out. And, oh, mate, I've never been
so confident.
Yeah, just like that expectation, like I'm going to catch a very big, impressive fish here. Like it is going to happen. I've got Friday till Monday morning. Kev let me stay until like come in Sunday and go down to the church, go down to work first thing Monday. Like, I've got a lot of time here. Those rigs are perfect on spots that I know they're going to feed on. It's not easy, but I think it's going to happen. I really think it's going to happen.
Yeah, you're A1, aren't you?
Yeah, and Dean lost one the first night. Nothing else. And then that day we were again in the reeds, pulling things out, getting everything sorted, and one of my rods rips off. I remember swimming to the bank to get to it because I'm in the water pulling these reeds out, swimming to the bank to get to it, go around. It was a 27-pounder, which is baby for the church, but still it was really nice and scaly. One of the ones that, how long ago was that? That was probably like 18 months ago. So that's probably like a low mid-30 now.
Yeah.
Then then me and Dean were going run for run. Then Dean caught one UK PB for him, like 35, 36 pounds, something like that. I was so happy for him because he'd grafted real hard as well. And I remember him going like, oh, but you placed the product. It's like, Dean, this was massive teamwork. This whole thing was huge teamwork doing this whole thing. Like, first of all, to get the opportunity to fish it, we've grafted, both of us here, and I could not have done that without you here, and without you helping me. Like, that was huge teamwork. So Dean was, I was so happy Dean caught one. Then we had a few little commons each. They spawned really successfully the year before. There's a load of like sort of 10 to 15 pound commons that when we were catching them, we're moving them to the stock pond. One you caught today might have been
an original church. That's the old school big common, mate. He's just adapted to his environment and shrunk back down.
Yeah, but to be fair, they do look like they've got those. Yours had like that bit of a hump, didn't it? The shoulders. Like
I'll take it, mate.
Yeah, it could be.
I'm not precious over where my fish come from.
Could be a church original, church baby even. Yeah, and then and then I remember having a proper big run. Starting to play it loads, and then it just kept locking up in weed and everything. So me and Dean go out in the boat. Real big boat battle. Dean's never done a boat battle before. I've done very little boat work myself before. It's really like running this all over the place. We caught in No Cop Corner. It ended up taking us to the other side of the island, round to like that.
Where the aerator is?
Yeah, around there. I remember at one point we were going through the aerator, and Dean's lad, Kian, was there. And Dean's shouting to Kian, go around, turn the aerator off, because as soon as if it got into that, then it's like a whole different ball game, isn't it? Because that's pushing a lot of water through it. Just managed to turn that. I remember seeing it turn loads and loads, just twisting and turning this big old carp. And
did you see it then?
Yeah, we saw it because it's quite clear. And when you book on a boat, you see it, and then it pops up for a minute. You're like, yeah, that's not 27 pound. That's a decent one, and it just goes off again. And it was an intense battle, and eventually, Dean, with some proper skilled boat work, considering it's his first time really, not his first time using a boat, but first time playing a fish from a boat, managed to net it. 37 pounds. So again, not massive by the church like standard at all, but still a mega fish. And it's like, that's what I wanted. That is what I wanted, and caught it the way I caught it. I would feel a little bit bad because normal anglers aren't allowed to do it that way.
Yeah,
and so it's not fair in that sense, but it still means a lot to me. And going back to, I don't know if you've seen Alan's Lockdown Lives, like what counts.
Yeah,
like
of
those
course.
things. It is what counts. So some people, okay, maybe that doesn't count, but and then going back to what I said earlier about the person who cares the most about your capture is you.
Yeah.
For me, that counts, and that's a special fish. Like that weekend with Dean.
Yeah.
Fishing for them that way, like the boat battle. The boat battle was intense, like really intense. Like that capture means a lot to me. That, and it's not a big fish for the church like at all, but it's like, oh, that's amazing.
That's a big fish anywhere, mate. 37 pounds.
37 pounds. Yeah, just that was just after, I think a couple of weeks before I'd caught my 38. So if I hadn't caught that one from Ashes, that 38, that would have been my UK PB as well. So that was amazing. And that's the last time I fished like that in the church. Like that, because I did feel like, oh, it's a bit bad, and if anything does happen, then I'm the one. But to be fair, I've done another 3 nights. I've done a 3-night stint with Alfie on there, and again got unlucky. Caught a few, lost a couple, but caught a few up to sort of like mid-20. So again, got unlucky there. And then I've done 1 or 2 nights in the winter.
He's full timing on it. Where's his syndicate ticket, Kev? Get me on it.
So in 2.5 years, I think people think that us boys, we're constantly fishing it, but honestly, it is very invite only. And
I've done 3 nights, mate, and 2 of those were with Angling Direct.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like when Kev says, "Okay, you go on, you haven't gone there," you go and you take full advantage of it. Like going back to Tommy's film, he's just done. How long ago would it be when this is released? It'd be like 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago, something like that. 2 months ago. He says it in there. It's like people think we're on up here all the time, but we're not. For like that main part of the year, the good part of the year, it's fully booked by good anglers fishing it. So when Kev says, right, you can have a weekend on it, or you can get a couple of days in winter fishing it.
Fill your boots, boys.
You fill your boots, but you go for it. You go ham. You don't go. Nothing that'll do on the church. Yeah, and it's not. People are like, it's just an easy lake. It's full of big ones, cushion to catch. Like, nah, they know the score. Like Blair's just struggled for like five days. He's just done a feature. He's if Alan Blair, who knows that lake like the back of his hand, if I think he caught 1 or 2 over 5 days.
He did have a mega 38 this morning though, didn't he?
He did. He had one of the nicest ones in the lake, Houdini. Yeah, done pictures for him. But again, like, it's not easy at all. It's hard.
No.
And so anything you catch from there,
It's hard earned.
it's hard earned. Yeah, hard earned. And it's. I really, really enjoyed that trip. That was, again, that sort of coincided with the Southwest Road trip, the trip to Ashes, starting to really feel like part of the gang here. It was like, yeah, this is nice. This is good. I like it. I like it here.
So
Don't let me
basically,
leave.
for you, moving forward, £40 UK carp, would you say is still your target?
That is still the target. But again, like, it's almost like kind of like a pride thing, I guess. You say you got to, like, if you're working in the industry, you almost feel like you've got to say, yeah, my PB's like 43, 44 UK. Like, but again, I do want to do it for myself. It's kind of like a pride thing. But this is why I don't think it's not my. It's on the list of things I want to do, but it's not the top of my list. Because going back again to saying, like, you shouldn't feel pressure from anyone else. You shouldn't make it. I shouldn't be like, oh, I'm on this quest for this £40. It's killing me. I just want to enjoy my fishing.
It, yeah.
And if one comes along, fantastic. And yeah, I will fish waters where that's a possibility. But I won't, like, if it doesn't happen this year, it doesn't happen this year. It's not like I'm going to end this year going, I didn't catch my UK 40. Oh my God, what a nightmare this year's been. It won't be like that. Like,
I think it goes back to the old. I get what you're saying from a working within the industry point of view, but I think it goes back to the significance of each capture is with somebody who actually makes the capture.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
And it depends on where you are. Like, if you're up north, a £20 is a massive fish.
Yeah, exactly.
No two ways about it.
Exactly. And I think people, can just. Like, Al talks about when people go message and go, what's your PB? That's the first thing they ask. It's like, it's not about that. Like, it's not what it's about. It's,
he always says not personal best. He says biggest or something.
What's my biggest capture? My personal best is completely different to my biggest ever fish caught. And I think that's a good way to summarise it. Yeah, definitely.
What an absolute weavy in and out of Europe, back to Nash, back to Europe, all sorts of stuff going on in your tail, Henry, mate. It's been an interesting journey that I've learned a lot about you.
I'll tell you what, I wasn't expecting it to be like this.
Were you not?
No, I don't know. I was expecting it to be. Everyone hears stories of That's So Henry Lennon. I was expecting like, I need to make like that podcast. But no, I've liked how it's gone. It's been nice to talk and
I've enjoyed it.
People listen to me basically.
I've enjoyed it, mate. I found out a lot about you rather than the not so Henry Lennon stuff.
Yeah. I hope people have enjoyed it. Like,
I'm sure.
Yeah, I really do hope that it's not just who is this noddy telling me about fishing.
No,
I hope people enjoy it. Yeah,
you're a ledge, mate. I'm looking forward to you achieving your dreams and being there, mate. I want your new rig wallet.
Yeah,
I'll sign it.
That is once I do catch it, that is getting pride of place in my fishing office one day. That is you should see the state of it though. You should see the state of it. It's terrible.
You can't get rid of it though.
No, never get rid of it. I will replace it. And I think next time I go on a trip where I think, especially if it's a work trip where I think I might beat it, I'm going to buy one ready, keep it in the bag.
Don't jinx it. Surely you've got to be presented with it.
Yeah, but give it to someone. So let's say we're going on a shoot somewhere with Dan and I think, I've got a chance here where I could beat this. I go, look, Dan, take this. If I catch it, give me like an award ceremony for it because it's been with me a long time. I'll show it to you later. I still got the 44.8 scratched into it where I was like, once I beat my PB, I'll get a new one. It'll be 2 years and 8 years later, here we are.
It'll happen, mate.
Yeah, but like I say, it's not the end. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm not chasing it, but it'd be nice if it comes along the way.
Top man. Great podcast, mate. Thank you all for watching or listening. We'll be back soon with another Nash Off the Hook podcast. Henry Lennon, thank you very much, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.